birthday wishes. I thank you so much. Queen had a pretty good time last night out to the Embassy Suites rooftop bar. So I want to thank you all for the birthday wishes. Queen turned 54 yesterday. And also feel free to watch my video upload where you can see the rooftop bar live in person. Okay, we're going to talk about this nonsense coming from number 47. I'm not going to dwell on it because one thing you have to learn about speaking on things that are negative and is redundant, you give it breath, you give it life. What number 47 has said about the military is disrespectful. Disrespectful also to the victims. There are people who are dead, they're deceased, they're not coming back. They haven't even gotten understanding of what actually happened over over that water, massive water, river. So it's disrespectful to even say anything when nobody even knows what actually happened, okay? Hell, may not ever know what happened. But to say anything about the military and the hiring process and the DEI and the biasness of the hiring process is so disrespectful because in the end, those guys who were on the plane, whoever was flying, whoever was training, they have a superior. So who are you speaking of, Mr. Number 47? You speaking of the superiors? They hired the wrong people to fly the aircraft, the helicopter. Well, they're dead as well. How about that? They're dead. Just the vile things he said in his briefing pertaining to this horrific event. It's like, why even talk about condolences and talking about the country and I'm going to give my opinion and other people are going to give their opinion. It's like you're throwing salt on the wounds of people who have deceased people who perished in that water. They're dead people. They're not coming back. So to give your opinion pertaining to what you think is wrong with the government and with the Biden administration, Obama administration, well, they're not in the White House, okay? And they weren't flying the airplane. They weren't flying the helicopter, the Blackhawk. So who the hell are you talking about? Because no government official was flying those airplanes and those aircrafts. 3 people were in training or 2 were in training. 1 was in training. Don't really know. The point is, you don't have anything better to do with your time. You shouldn't even be talking about anything pertaining to the military, period. And naturally, somebody wants somebody to blame. But you, sir, should not be speaking on anything pertaining to the military, the aircrafts, nothing, when nobody even knows what the hell happened. And it's just so disrespectful. But as I said, the more we talk about this thing, the more we give him breath, we give him life. You know, you're feeding the beast when you speak about him. And that's what he wants. He wants to be relevant. So he couldn't be relevant no other time. I mean, you just got into the White House, okay? And this is what you would do. Besides all these old new ordinances and new executive orders, this is how you would speak of ill of the dead. These people are dead. They're not coming back. And it's sickening. Okay, congratulations. Congratulations, okay? Congratulations. Well, nobody cares about you being for him. Give a damn. And anybody following behind him, you're crazy as hell. Yeah, I'm saying that. Because this man is just going to take this country all the way down. Because if you can't even have respect for the dead, you definitely don't have respect for the living. And that's my commentary. Let's talk about what happened pertaining to this Blackhawk helicopter and this airliner. Don't have all the details yet, of course, because it just happened. But this was a plane coming out of Kansas on its way to D.C. We're going to give you an outline. Exactly. Thank you. Very, very true. Never once said, sorry for the loss, just going on and on. I just want to talk about my opinion, my opinion. This isn't the time to talk about anything negative. People are dead. They're not coming back. And let's also pray for the victims' families and also the crews, the people searching, and the divers. Most importantly, the divers, because they're the ones down in that icy water looking for remains and also parts of the aircrafts. So hell, show some respect for those people diving in the water. Well, I'm not here to pass blame. I wasn't there. So if you're coming in here to pass blame, you find you somewhere else to go. We don't know what happened. We weren't there. We don't know what happened. Because everybody's got a different opinion on what they think could have happened. We're going to give you an outline of what transpired. So you have the Pentagon, Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Then you have AA 42 flight path 848. And then you have the crash site, Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. And then you have the Army helicopters flight path. So this is just giving you a general rundown. And then there was runway 33. So we're talking about 2,400 feet, allegedly, that the aircraft should have been making its way to the runway, but it did not make it. So was it due to low visibility? The aircrafts were too low. My understanding is that each one knew of the other one being in the air. So what actually happened? I do not know. Give you a rundown on what happened. An American Airlines regional jet went down in the Potomac River near Washington, D.C.'s Ronald Reagan Washington Airport, National Airport, after colliding with the U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter on Wednesday night, with no survivors expected. 64 people were on board the plane, which departed from Wichita, Kansas. 3 soldiers were on the helicopter. The collision happened around 9 p.m. when the PSA Airlines Bombardier CRJ 700 regional jet was on approach to the airport. Key information, and this was uploaded an hour and 35 minutes ago. American Airlines black boxes now at NSTB Labs. Airport tower combined 2 positions into one. Dive teams ending operations at 3:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Information from someone that says he was excited about life. Family remembers flight's first officer. 3:09 p.m. flight recorders not yet recovered. And that's at 3:09. It's now 10:39. So we're talking about 7 hours later. And we'll read some brief pictures from the Coast Guard showing photographs of the wreckage. That's in my thumbnail. It's a very serious situation. This is during the daylight, of course. Naturally, the water was very cold, icy, that these divers had to dive into the river. It's very, very dicey situation. The U.S. Coast Guard shared photos of the multi-agency recovery operation following Wednesday's deadly collision. The agency said boat crews from Washington, Curtis Bay, Annapolis, Oxford, Crisfield, and the Coast Guard cutter Sailfish were responding on Thursday. Once again, the black boxes are at the NSTB Labs. National Transportation Safety Board cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder from the American Airlines jet that collided with the Black Hawk helicopter Wednesday have been recovered from the wreckage in the Potomac River and are now at the NTSB Labs for evaluation. Runway 33 at DCA closed until February 7th. This runway for American Airlines Flight 5342 was headed towards before the deadly mid-air collision on Wednesday. It will be closed for the next week, according to a notice sent to pilots obtained by ABC News. Also, black boxes from American Airlines once again recovered, for those who are curious. And they are en route once again to the NTSB lab. The Wichita, DC Airlines flight service will resume on Friday. The airport, it says Wichita Airport officials say the service, which was canceled this evening in the wake of the crash, is scheduled to resume on Friday. So anyone flying out of there, flights will resume on Friday. And also here this morning, flights were grounded here in Knoxville, Tennessee, going to Washington, D.C. I don't know if they're back up running or not, but my understanding, flights were flying out of D.C. as of a few hours ago. It says the flight manifest may be made public by Friday. Kansas governor, he told reporters this information had with the airline. It says this process has been delayed while the airline notifies all victims next of kin, including ones who live overseas. she said. Because we also, I believe, have two Chinese nationals who were on the flights that perished. At this point, it's unclear how many victims were from Kansas. According to the Wichita mayor, Lily Wu, one family arrived at Wichita's Eisenhower National Airport last night seeking information about their loved one on the flight. Those no other families here in Wichita have reached out to her office, she said during Thursday's briefing. Okay. And then we've got a man whose wife and daughter were on that flight, sadly. Spencer Lane, 16, and his mother, Christine Lane, 49, were among the passengers on the American Airlines flight when it crashed on Wednesday. This is just so terrible. They were returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita, Kansas, and were among 6 victims, including 2 coaches, 2 teenage athletes, 2 moms of the athletes from the Skating Club of Boston. The organization said Spencer Lane's father, Doug Lane, remembered his son as a force of nature. And this is a young man who is no longer alive, who perished in that unfortunate crash. Once again, condolences to the family. He just had amazing athlete abilities, Doug Lane told ABC Boston affiliate WCVB. He was like, hey, that's interesting to me. You couldn't stop him. And figure skating is, I think, the best example of that. The team decided to try skating 3 years ago after seeing Nathan Chen in the Olympics and committed himself to it, his dad said. Doug Lane remembered his wife as a beautiful, creative person who had many talents, including quilting, volunteered at a local animal rescue. She loved being a mother to their 2 sons who were both adopted from South Korea, he said. Wow. This is bad. She would do everything for her children, including fly to Wichita, Kansas for a week, he said. She just gave parenting her all. And feel free to go to YouTube Q. You can hear this father's interview with local news pertaining to the death of his loved ones. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem posted photos of the downed Blackhawk helicopter. She said she joined the Coast Guard as they enforced a safety zone around the crash site. And they've got a few pictures out pertaining. You'll probably see a lot of pictures. And she says, I'd like to thank our Coast Guard, agency partners, and local responders. This is just a bad situation. Once again, pictures of the people out trying to help. Divers, crews, people out trying to help. This is a bad situation. Very, very bad. Okay, I see we're going to have a problem here. We're going to start this. From now on, there won't be any comments played in the live streams since people are so disrespectful to these decedents and also the military, the crew searching. This is a serious situation. There are people who are dead, and you all have no respect for the dead. None of you have any fucking respect. These people are dead. They're not coming back. And sadly, people have to jump in the water, besides the dead people now. People have to jump in the water to try to retrieve their remains. Maybe some of you would like to go out there in that icy water and try to retrieve the remains in the black boxes and so on and so forth. Since this is a joke to many of you, besides Mr. Donald Trump, people ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
Coming back on the air because the NTSB is now holding a briefing on this deadly mid-air collision between an American Airlines flight and a U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter here in Washington, D.C. You can see we're here on the banks of the Potomac. Let's listen.
The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency that's charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation and serious accident and serious incident in the United States and significant events in other modes of transportation. I want to start by expressing our deepest condolences, our sympathies on behalf of the entire board for those who lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy. Our thoughts Our prayers are with you. Entire communities were affected, and we are thinking of you. With me today is Bryce Banning. Bryce is a senior aircraft accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. He's also going to serve as our investigator in charge of this investigation. Also with me today is the entire board. We have Todd Inman, member Todd Inman. Todd is going to serve as the board member on scene, the spokesperson for this investigation. All of the board members will be here. We have Vice Chairman Alvin Brown, member Mike Graham, who lived in Wichita for 20 years, and we also have member Tom Chapman. The NTSB's headquarters is just a mile from here. And so we are all here because this is an all hands on deck event. And we're here to assure the American people that we are going to leave no stone unturned in this investigation. We are going to conduct a thorough investigation of this entire tragedy, looking at the facts. Now, with that, I want to level set. When we go to the scene last night, we allow the responders to do their important safety mission, which in this case was search and rescue and recovery. We stand back to allow them to do their important safety mission. And so this for us is our first full day on scene with our entire crew coming together. We have about nearly 50 people on scene, and in addition to our resources back at headquarters in our labs and throughout the agency. So with that said, we are not going to get into specific facts in this press conference. I want to level set here. We're going to get into our investigative process. As we are able to confirm factual information, we will provide that. I do want to say this is a whole of government effort. I was able to brief, along with others, the President of the United States and the Vice President this afternoon. I want to thank them for their leadership, for their tremendous support of the NTSB, for our investigators, and for the responders that are on scene doing an important mission. I also want to thank Secretary Sean Duffy, who I was communicating with early on after we first got word of this tragedy. We've been working together throughout the day, along with his team at the DOT and within FAA. I also want to thank Secretary Pete Hegseth, who was also integral in working with us today. Chris Rochelot, the acting administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration. We've heard from many members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. And so I will say this is a tremendous, one more time, whole of government effort. I also want to take a moment and thank the many, many responders that have been on scene.
Amen. Amen.
It has been an incredible effort. And I will have a full list that I will provide, that we will provide tomorrow. But I do want to thank them for all their work. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Member Inman for additional remarks.
So today is our first full day on scene. Our investigative team will be on scene as long as it takes in order to obtain all the perishable evidence and all the fact finding that is needed to bring us to a conclusion of probable cause. And not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from happening again. Since we're just beginning our investigation, we don't have a great deal of information to share right now. We will keep you informed by getting regular updates as we learn more. Our intention is to have a preliminary report within 30 days, and the final report will be issued once we've completed all our fact finding and investigation. Now, we will not be determining the probable cause of the accident while we're here on scene, nor will we speculate about what may have caused this accident.
Thank you.
Today, we will be going and having an organizational meeting and establishing our parties to our investigation. We currently have the following parties that are already identified: PSA Airlines, GE Aerospace, Sikorsky, FAA, NACTA, which represents the air
Hey,
traffic
Skyman.
controllers, ALPA, which represents the pilots, Army, AFA, which represents the flight attendants. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada will be an accredited representative under Annex 13 of ICAO. They will be supplemented by MHIRG as a technical advisor. They were previously known as Bombardier. The NTSB offers this party status to those companies, government agencies, and associations that have employees, activities, or equipment involved in the accident. We offer that because they will provide technical expertise and relevant information supporting the development of the best possible factual record. Once they join this investigation, they are not permitted to release documents or talk publicly about the investigation without the consent of the NTSB. So I want to stress that only the NTSB that will provide information related to this investigation, with one exception, regarding the fatalities that occurred. That notification will be handled by the DC medical examiner. We will not be discussing fatalities or names. That will be handled by them as the proper authority. So we want to talk a little bit about our process. We will analyze the facts, determine the probable cause of the accident, and then issue a report of those determinations. I also want to talk a little bit about some additional people that are here with us, and they're very important to us, and that is our family assistance group. Later today, we will be briefing the families. We normally try to do this before a media event, but in this case, they're still arriving. Our family assistance specialists are already working closely with local officials and others to help assist them in their efforts to support everyone that's affected by this accident. And let me just reiterate what the chair said. A loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States. And our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened. We will do it factually, and we will do it accurately. As part of this, we're going to be standing up some specific working groups. Those working groups will be operations. They will be looking at the history of the accident flight, crew members' duties for as many days before the crash as appears relevant. We'll be forming a structures group, which will be the documentation of the airframe wreckage and the accident scene, including calculation of impact angles to help determine the plane's pre-impact course and altitude. We'll have a power plants group. They will do the examination of the engines and the engine accessories. We'll have a systems group. They will study the components of the plane's hydraulic, electrical, pneumatic, and associated systems, together with the instruments and elements of the flight control system. We'll have an air traffic control group. They will do reconstruction and review of air traffic control systems provided to and including acquisition of pertinent flight track surveillance information, what you might typically think of as radar or ADS-B, along with controller pilot communications. We will also have a survival factors group. They will be doing the documentation of impact, forces and injuries, community emergency planning, and all crash and fire rescue efforts. Also, due to the unique nature of this crash, we will be having a helicopter group as well. Lastly, we will have a human performance group, and this will not be its own group. It will actually be a part of the operations, air traffic control, and helicopter groups. They will study the crew performance and all before the accident factors that might be involved in human error, including fatigue, medication, medical histories, training, workload, equipment design, and work environment. Now we're going to take a few questions, but I will again stress, we don't have a lot of information now. We will continue to gather that. We will try to release it as we can. but we will only talk about the facts of the case that we know right now. And I'm going to ask, we're calling a few people. I'm going to ask that you state your name and affiliation.
James Matthews from Sky News. So we heard from President Trump today talking about DEI hiring policy within the FAA and associating that with the cause of this accident. What do you say to that?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't hear the remarks. I was briefing House and Senate members, but I believe Chair, would you like to take it?
As part of any investigation, we look at the human, the machine, and the environment. So we will look at all the humans that were involved in this accident. Again, we will look at the aircraft, we will look at the helicopter, we will look at the environment in which they were operating in. That is standard in any part of our investigation. I'll turn it back.
Chair, can I ask you, has the flight data recorder been recovered yet? And what is the difficulty in a water disaster like this, which presents a very difficult environment for your investigators and the people out on the water?
Well, the question was on the flight data recorders. And we have not recovered the flight data recorders yet. We know they're there. They are underwater. This is not unusual for the NTSB. We have many times recovered flight data recorders in water. We have our lab right here that is about a mile from the NTSB, so it's not unusual. And once we get those, we'll be able to get those read and information from them to be able to provide further information to you. I'm going to turn it back over to Member Edmonds.
Senator Henry with CBS News. Earlier today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said a mistake was made last night. Based off of you all's initial investigations and preliminary findings, have you all been able to tell whether this was human error or mechanical failure?
The question was, has there been human error or mechanical failure? We don't know what we know just yet. We do not know enough facts to be able to rule in or out human factor, mechanical factors. That is part of the NTSB investigative process, and where all of these groups will come together. It's one of the reasons why the NTSB is known as the gold standard. We will take the time that's necessary, but I'd also like to reiterate, if we find something that is a significant issue that warrants immediate action, we will not hesitate to make those recommendations and make them public. We have a good track record on that, and we want to continue doing so.
Hello, Sir. Tom Costello with NBC News. Does a purge your investigative process, maybe for the chairman, does a purge your investigative process have the president already suggesting possible causes here as you try to keep an open mind and begin this investigation?
Oh, he's breathing heavy, ain't he? Wow.
Tom, with all due respect, I think the press also likes to state what probable cause is before we get to the probable cause. So what I'm going to say is you need to give us time. You need to give NTS. It's not that we don't have information. We do have information. We have data. We have substantial amounts of information. We need to verify information. We need to take our time to make sure it is accurate. That's best for you. That's important for the families. It's important for legislators who are seeking answers to try to figure out what they're going to do about this. And so it will take time. We do have a lot of information, but we need some time to verify that.
Yeah, Dr. Chase Williams with Fox Business. I'm wondering about the conditions in the tower last night. Were there any performance issues in the past with any of these controllers, anything of that?
The question is about controllers. As I said, we are just now forming the groups. The controllers do have union representation, which they're entitled to. They'll be working with our party system and our party groups. They'll be conducting interviews. Those interviews will need to be analyzed, transcribed, and other team members will need to look over it. It'll be a long process, but we will go through the entire history.
Michelle Gilbray, The Independent. My question is for the chairwoman. Can you tell us more about what the President and Vice President's responses were when you briefed this afternoon?
Sure. So the question was about my briefing for the president and the vice president. As is standard, we offer briefings on our process and what we know. And this was a briefing with the president and vice president and with Secretary Duffy and Secretary Hegseth and Also, the acting administrator of the FAA, there was discussion on what we know so far and our process, and that was about it.
Madam Chairwoman, Stephanie Ross with ABC News. Similar to Tom Costello's question, the president has stated what may have caused the crash, stating common sense. Does that affect your progress at all at this early stage?
Yeah, so the NTSB, we conduct an important safety mission where we take a very careful approach. I'm sorry, the question was on speculating during investigations, which is we often hear about. What I will say is we look at facts on our investigation, and that will take some time. And at some point, we'll be able to provide that factual information, as Member Inman said, and provide that hopefully tomorrow.
Anderson.
Have you been able to retrieve the Blackhawk helicopter? Did the military decide whether they're going to read those to the NTSB? And what about the agency tapes you mentioned?
So the question was about black boxes, which are referred to as black boxes, which are typically orange. We have not recovered any of the boxes. We feel comfortable and confident that we will be able to. Right now, recovery of life is probably the most important in those that were involved. I mean, there are still ongoing recovery efforts involving the fatalities involved, along with some debris is coming out as well. We will that perishable evidence is maintained. We have a great process for that. We will probably have more than one black box, so to speak. It's our understanding that the Sikorsky helicopter is equipped with some form of recording devices, and those will be read either by the DoD or by us. We have a good relationship with them, and we've already made agreements in order to be able to do that. So I feel comfortable in what we're going to be doing. The other question was about air traffic control. We received a very large package of information from the FAA at about 3 a.m., I believe, this morning. That is still being reviewed and analyzed. I would say there's a lot more information that usually comes in that than what you may find online and people might speculate about. And that is part of that overall process where we take the time to get the information correct and to make sure all the parties are engaged, involved, and can fact check that information. 1 minute.
Jake Cohen from CNN. Can you tell me if the NTSB has reviewed this FAA internal report that has been cited by the New York Times indicating that the controller that was on duty at the time of the crash was doing the job that's usually done by two people?
We have not reviewed any specific reports about the controllers at this time, at least from the leadership team. Our investigators are continuing to pull all that information. Their personnel records, their files, where they were at, whether they were fatigued, all that information will be part of that investigative process. But right now, we can't speculate on anything that may have been reported in the media until we get the opportunity to validate and understand how it impacts the investigation. We're going to take just a few more questions. Sir?
Yes, one time Libra magazine. What's the process for this? It's like a bringing the family in? Are they coming to the airport? And how are you going to sort of do the sensitivity of bringing to the place where this strategy happens?
So the question is about the families. And many of those families are still en route. Some are still being notified from both the military and from the commercial crash. There is a family assistance facility that's being stood up by American and PSA Airlines in Bethesda, Maryland. They've already been working on that, standing it up. Our team from our disaster assistance team has also been coordinating with them. We plan on briefing them. It is customary that at some point, if the families wish to go to part of the accident site, that we would arrange such a thing, but it will only be when we know that it's safe, we have perishable evidence, and we can do it in the proper modesty that should be for those family members. It will be a little bit of a process, but it will take some time.
Sir, to follow up on the air traffic control.
No. So, where are you?
I know that Mariel Fairbairn with DC News now. We've heard from some witnesses that they saw people were able to come down the slide of the plane. Has there been any indication that people made it off the plane to the water?
Well, again, we will not speak to the fatalities. The DC medical examiner will, but I think the DC fire chief this morning very succinctly said correctly that we believe there are no survivors.
Well, as of late, there have been no survivors because this accident took place over 26 hours ago, okay? So this happened Wednesday night after 9 p.m. It is now 11:07 Eastern Standard Time. And what they have been pulling out of the water is wreckage and remains. There are no survivors at this point. 60 plus people on the aircraft coming from Wichita. Okay. 60 patrons, 4 flight crew, and 3 on the Blackhawk helicopter.
Last question?
So hang on one second. Right now, we're going through the debris fields. Nothing we've seen would indicate that maybe slides or chutes were deployed. It was a very quick, rapid impact, but we've seen nothing in that regard so far from the evidence we had, but we still need to verify all of that information. One more question?
For example, are you going to be looking at the family member's cell phone?
Go ahead.
Jeff Cook, ABC News. What do you know about the altitude of the helicopter at the moment of impact? Can you talk about the procedures for such helicopters in that area?
The question was about the helicopter procedures. And in DC, it's kind of a unique environment. We've been getting briefed more and more by the FAA. I'm not an air traffic control specialist, but they're actually helicopter zones, if you will, or tracks. And this one was transiting, I believe, from track 1 to 4 as part of their normal procedure. If you live in DC, you see a lot of helicopters going down into this area. So there's a very well-defined system in that regard. As far as altitude, until we get the additional information, we can't validate or basically corroborate any of that until we get more of the electronic data and the data that's on the plane. I do want to clarify one question that also came about cell phones. You know, in today's age and time, a lot of electronics and other devices do contain a lot of different information. We have found on a number of our accidents that we actually are notified through a smartphone that may sense that. As part of our process, we will obviously treat all of the effects of the deceased with dignity. We are already starting to pull that information
Good.
together.
Somebody
If we
is.
feel that it's
Thank
necessary
God.
to find or pull some of that information, we will work with the families and make sure we do it in a manner that's respectful for them and their privacy. But right now, we don't have any plans specifically on that amount, on that area until we need to. Thank you very much.
You've been watching a live press briefing with the NTSB taking questions, limited questions here, less than 24 hours after the deadliest air disaster here in the United States in nearly 24 years. This American Airlines regional jet and a U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter. There was some news that came from this news conference. In addition to laying out how they'll proceed with their investigation, they say very carefully it'll be based on the facts. They said it'll be 30 days was the number they gave until they release their report, unless there's any urgent change that needs to take place. They said they would step out in front of that report in 30 days, but they did.
I want to interrupt here. 30 days. Whew, it's a nice little, that's a whole month. What happened on this fateful evening, Washington, D.C., between an airliner and a Blackhawk helicopter? Is this an issue of visual? We're hearing information about goggles worn at night by the staff on the plane, the helicopter. Did the goggles play a factor in visual? We also hear there's information coming out that the aircrafts, they were possibly low. Helicopter was low, too low. What is the truth to what really happened between these two? 2,400 feet away, this airliner from making a landing at the airport. And my understanding is that they each had got knowledge of either one. So that's where it's confusing, I guess, to many people, is if they both were known to be in the air at the same time, then how did they crash into one another? It's very, very scary information. Quite scary. I was trying to bring the latest information pertaining to what happened. This is just baffling. Let's see, as of 4 hours ago, 11 bodies have been recovered, no survivors. Once again, 60 passengers, 4 crew members aboard that American airline, and they collided with a military helicopter near Washington, D.C. Wednesday night, plunging into the Potomac River. This is just so baffling. 67 people now unalive, plunging into a river. We learned also that there were on the plane, younger, under 18 on the plane, parents on the plane coming out of Kansas, young people trying to do things with themselves, goals. Now that's been dashed from this horrific plane crash. Commercial flight from Wichita, Kansas was making its approach to Reagan National Airport when the collision occurred shortly before 9 p.m. According to the Federal Aviation Administration, the Blackhawk helicopter operating out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia, with a crew of 3, was on a training mission. According to the Defense Department, Washington Senator Maria Cantwell's office told CNN Thursday evening that one of 2 black boxes aboard the American flight had been recovered. Among those who died in the crash were figure skaters and their family members and coaches. U.S. Figure Skating, the national governing body for the sport, said several members of our skating community were on board the flight from Kansas, returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. At a press briefing on Thursday, which is today, President Trump held a moment of silence for the crash victims. We are in mourning, he said. This has really shaken a lot of people, including people, sadly, from other nations who were on the flight. Yes, there were other people on the flight that were not Americans. This was Flight 5342 and a Blackhawk, Army Blackhawk helicopter, if you're curious. 67 people have perished. So far, no survivors. Now we're up to 40 bodies have been recovered from the river. Once again, 1 or 2 black box data recorders from Flight 5342 have been recovered. Preliminary report by the Federal Aviation Administration reportedly found that staffing in the air traffic control tower at the airport was not normal at the time of the mid-air collision. Wednesday's crash came just 24 hours after a near miss between another commercial jet and a helicopter at Reagan National. So what's really going on here? Because they're saying not normal. So what do they consider not normal for this traffic control tower? My understanding also they get stringent. They have received stringent training. They said more extensive than a pilot gets. That's what ABC News has brought earlier. That they get more stringent care, training, and it goes on from the moment they are hired, which is lasts about 4 years of training from the date of hire. So if their training is more stringent than what happened on this fateful day, so everybody's going to want somebody to blame. So now everybody's got something to say. You in the chat, you've got something to say. Whose fault it is? It's the person flying the Blackhawk. It's the air controller. It's fault. Well, whose fault is it? Well, where are you all wanting to put the blame? Since everybody's got something to say. Just saying. Everybody's got something to say about whose fault it is, but nobody was there. So it was the pilot, airline pilot. Was it the airline pilot, the person flying the Blackhawk? Or control tower? The fact they had a near miss 24 hours beforehand between a commercial jet and a helicopter at the airport. That's not good either. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom sent a letter to employees saying the company's top priority was supporting the families who had just lost loved ones. Exactly. This flight came out of Wichita, Kansas, 5342. Once again, number 47, attempted to put the blame on President Joe Biden and diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring practices at the FAA. And my understanding, those practices are not in conjunction with the hiring process or the FAA program, from my understanding. He also faces criticism due to the fact that the FAA Administrator Michael Whitaker stepped down January 20th following run-ins with Elon Musk. Trump appointed Chris Ruchello, a longtime senior official with the FAA, to temporarily run the agency. Newly confirmed Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy faced his first real test in office, telling reporters it is not standard to have aircraft collide. Well, it did this time, so there you have it. More than a dozen figure skaters were killed in the crash, many of whom had attended the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita last week. So one of two black boxes have been recovered from Flight 5342, okay? These boxes could help investigators pinpoint the cause of Wednesday night's deadly collision with a Blackhawk helicopter. As I said, everybody's got something to say about what happened, but we don't know what happened. And the point is, you can't say what happened because, one, you're not there, and the people in the crash, they're dead. The pilot of the helicopter's dead, and the pilot of the plane, they're dead. So all you have are the black boxes and whatever information you can get from the tower. Information from that person or persons who were running the control tower. It says as Public Airlines Flight 4514 approached Reagan National Airport just after 8 on Tuesday, the plane's cockpit crew alerted the control tower that a helicopter had appeared near its flight path. We had an RA with a helicopter traffic below us, a crew member told air traffic controllers at roughly 8:05 p.m. The Post reported using abbreviation for resolution advisory, which pilots use to indicate their plane is at risk of colliding with another aircraft. Flight 4514 aborted its initial attempt at landing, making a loop and successfully touching down at 8:16, according to flight records obtained by the Post. So this must be another aircraft. Well, this must be a problem. And I believe I heard that earlier. It's too much traffic going on because they're rerouting planes due to what happened with 9/11. So maybe they're going to have to come up with a better solution for planes coming and going, taking off and also landing. And also military doing training also in the general area where aircrafts fly. Because in the end, the helicopters have to go in the air. Don't know how high they go, but they have to fly at some point. They have to fly night and day. Now, one guy said, well, they should have been flying at night. That doesn't even make any sense to say that. You're supposed to guide a helicopter in the dark if you've never flown it in the dark. That's kind of like, that makes no sense. It's like telling a pilot of an airplane, well, I only train during the day. Naturally, at night, it's going to look different because you have all these bright lights. Perhaps the lights played a issue in this. That was also mentioned from someone, that maybe the lights played a part in this. Wearing the nighttime goggles. It's been said that wearing the goggles are difficult to see which is which between a plane and the lights on the ground. I don't know. I don't fly, so I can't say. But it sounds reasonable enough to me. Something happened. Obviously, they've got too much going on over there near the airport. For them to have an incident almost, a day before, that's not good with this Flight 4514. And it riding around for damn near 11 minutes trying to land, that's not good. School superintendent, 3 students, 6 parents from Fairfax County Public Schools died in this crash. This is coming from Fairfax County Public Schools superintendent. What we know at this time is that 3 of our FCPS students and 6 of our FCPS parents were lost. affecting multiple schools and departments here at FCPS, aiding that 2 of the parents killed were current or former school staff members. Okay. Just trying to bring you the latest. It says the NTSB has not yet identified the identity of passengers, all of whom are believed to have died in Wednesday night's crash, but some of those people have been identified. So that was at 6:21 p.m., but there have been some pictures put on screen pertaining to those who perished. It says last May, Congress voted to add 5 new long-distance round-trip flights to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport as part of an extensive bill authorizing $5 billion to the Federal Aviation Administration. I don't even know what they're saying. It says Democratic senators who oppose 2024 FAA legislation warn of adding flights. Okay, so obviously they had extra flights added on, and possibly they didn't need to have any flights. Extra flights added on. Too much commotion in the air, let's say. It says, but months earlier, February 2024, 4 Democratic senators from Maryland and Virginia, including Senator Tim Kaine, issued a statement warning that air traffic at Reagan was already congested and that allowing that many additional incoming and outgoing flights would be reckless and gambling with the safety of everyone who uses the airport. So almost a year later, this commentary is coming from senators, and now we have an aircraft and a helicopter that have collided, and we have dead people now. So this is interesting. Commentary made February 2024 that there was too much aircrafts going in and out, and now we have a deadly situation, not even a year later. In December, the Department of Transportation announced that it had awarded 5 airlines slots to fly passengers from Reagan to select Western destinations from San Antonio to Seattle. So let's ask that question. Will that change now? Since you've had this collision, will some of these flights be disbanded? Will they eliminate flights going out from Reagan International? Will they build another airport, perhaps? Some people feel like maybe they shouldn't even have an airport anywhere near the jurisdiction of, government offices, Capitol. That would make sense due to what happened with 9/11. You don't need to have any airplanes near. Maybe airlines should be somewhere in the suburbs, like we have in a lot of major cities. Like in Chicago, the airport is not in Chicago, it's outside, right outside Chicago. Same thing here, Tyson. The name is Knoxville, but it's actually in Alcoa, Tennessee, which sits like right next door to Knoxville. Lord have mercy. Mayor Lily Wu, Kansas governor, says Wichita Mayor Lily Wu and Kansas Governor Laura Kelly held a news conference Thursday to give updates pertaining to Flight 5342. Says, I'm proud that this community is coming together at a time like this, Wu said in her second press conference of the day. A tragic event that should unite us all to remember that life is precious. Governor Kelly said that Kansas officials were in communication with federal partners to investigate what caused the plane collision. Both the mayor and I have been on the phone constantly since last night with representatives from the National Transportation Safety Board, from the governors of Virginia and Maryland, and all sort of other folks who are involved in this tragedy, Kelly said. So they said here, 5:01 p.m., here's what it takes to become an air traffic controller, a job considered stressful and tough. Let me see if they open it up to something. They didn't go into anything. Let's see. It says, the disaster, the cause of which remains under investigation, comes during a long-running nationwide shortage of air traffic controllers, and staffing may have played a factor. The control tower at Reagan Airport has been understaffed for years. Wow, that's new information. The New York Times reported, and at the time of the crash, a controller who was in charge of the helicopter traffic was also tasked with instructing planes, the Associated Press reported. Ideally, those jobs are handled by 2 controllers. Now, that's not good. That's not good at all. So you only had 1 controller? So each one has its own designated position. 1 for planes, 1 for helicopters. That's very interesting. So you only have 1 person working. Now you got to ask yourself how long this person was on shift. What time did they come on shift? Their motivation, their disposition, how were they feeling? Did they have enough sleep? Have enough water? Were they seeing well? When's the last time they had an eye test? So you have to ask all these questions. That's why I said I'm not here to pass blame on anyone because I wasn't out there flying either plane. So I can't say what this one did, what that one didn't do. Because if that's the case, you can ask the same questions for everybody. How was everybody feeling that was flying? Groggy, sleepy? Hell, did somebody have a heart attack, stroke? Did somebody blank out? Did somebody conk out? Somebody, I don't know. Anything's possible. Poor judgment, don't know. But now hearing a 1 comptroller, don't know if that played a role. See, a lot of things you can ask. Oh, man. Just skimming over the latest information. So in Kansas, they had a prayer vigil to remember the crash victims. Some of the pictures. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. And at 404, they said this. FAA says staffing was not normal in air traffic control tower at time of crash. So that's not good. So, as I said, if only 1 person was working, what is his or her normal shift? How many hours do they normally work in a given shift? What mood was the person in? How were they feeling? So that's why I said you're gonna ask this question for everybody that's involved. But 2 people can't talk. The pilot on the aircraft, he or she can't talk, and the person flying the Blackhawk, they can't talk. So they can't tell us anything. They were feeling okay. They had vision trouble. They were getting sleepy. They misjudged the situation. We're not going to know until we get the black box to hear the conversations. If anybody was trying to alert anybody of something, somebody ignored something, I don't know. As I said, I wasn't there, and I'm not here to pass blame because we as people we have a bad habit of judging things that we don't know nothing about, passing the blame with this and that, and we don't even know who did what and said what to whom. For what they're saying earlier said each knew of the other one being in the air. So if each can be recorded saying, yes, I see the plane, yes, I see the helicopter, then now you have to ask, where does the blame lie?
Break some news here during this press conference. I just want to go over a couple of the things that we learned. They have not recovered the recorders from both the regional jet and the recording device from the Blackhawk helicopter, though they made it very clear they believe both of those recording devices are still in the water. And we heard the NTSB say it's not uncommon that it would still be in the water at this point. They feel very strongly that they'll be able to get to that information. You heard the NTSB was asked about Defense Secretary Hegseth suggesting that there must have been some sort of a mistake last night. The NTSB.
Well, one of the boxes from the American airline has been recovered, just so you know.
We would not go there, only simply to say that they will investigate all humans involved, all mechanics involved, the aircraft involved, etc., as they move forward in their investigation. They did reveal that the FAA, as of 3 a.m. this morning, did deliver a batch of research information from air traffic control. I gather that will include communications and the logs from air traffic control, but we'll, of course, have to wait to report that out. They talked about this briefing actually coming before their meeting with the families involved, the families of the victims. They said that's somewhat rare to address the cameras and the public before meeting with the families, but they pointed out in this case, many of the families are still en route to the scene to meet with the NTSB. They said they do have their team ready to work with those families who are undergoing an unbearable loss at this point. And I want to bring in Gio Benitez. He covers aviation for us. And Gio, that was news that they don't have the data recorders yet, but they're very confident they'll get to them.
Absolutely, and it's critical, of course, David, that they actually find that. But there are so many questions here, and what you heard from the NTSB is a fairly typical first NTSB press conference after an accident, where they're sort of detailing the process of this investigation, because it takes them so much time to obtain this. And a lot of times, what we see at the very beginning with these stories isn't what the investigation ends up finding. We saw that with the Alaska door plug when it flew off back in January of last year. We saw how that changed, and that's very likely what would happen here as well. There are some key questions, though, and certainly the Blackhawk helicopter being at 350 feet, that is at least what this preliminary flight data that we have right now says, because it was supposed to be at 200 feet or below. So that's going to be one question that they're going to be looking at for sure. By all accounts right now, the American Airlines plane had a normal approach as it was landing. That is what it looks like. The American Airlines CEO said that, and just about everyone has said that as well. But air traffic control, the question of air traffic control, at one point, air traffic control did tell the Blackhawk helicopter and asked the Blackhawk helicopter pilot, did they see the plane, this CRJ plane? Did they see it? And the Blackhawk helicopter pilot actually said that, yes, they did. But moments later, that's when the accident happened. Now, President Trump earlier today did raise the question of, was that warning early enough? And so that's going to be something investigators are going to be looking at, too.
Good question.
Okay, so this was uploaded a few hours ago. So I'm going to give you the latest pertaining to a few minutes ago. We now have 30 bodies recovered from the wreckage. 30 bodies out of 67, okay? These are the latest pictures from the wreckage, showing you the work that's being done. So prayers to all those diligently working. Sorry about that. It's a commercial. On the water, just giving you an idea of what it's like out there. All these people in the water trying to work, boats, different size boats. As you can see the wreckage there, part of the wreckage in the water. I think they're on jet skis, staffers out there trying to help. So you have a lot of boats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a lot of people trying to help. Just bringing you the latest, everybody. All right.
Questions too about whether or not it might have been another aircraft in the sky that perhaps the team on that Blackhawk helicopter might have seen, because we've all seen those images captured on a number of cameras here in the Washington, D.C. airport.
Now, it's interesting he would say about another plane. Did it throw off the Blackhawk pilot? Could be, because what's interesting when you look at the photos of the crash, there is photos, video of the crash. You can see a plane flying upward, like it's just took off from the runway. And when you see that plane going upward, I mean, it's not even far from the explosion. So did that throw the pilot off? He, she, whoever was flying was looking for the aircraft that they actually hit, but the one that was sitting above them threw him off, because that's what I found interesting today when I saw the video of that plane. Because I said to myself, I said, well, wait a minute, where is this plane coming from? I said, the crash is up underneath that plane. Well, how did he hit that? How was there a crash? That was the first thing I said. When I saw the airplane sitting above the crash, I said, well, how did it crash if the plane's sitting above? And then it dawned on me, oh, that's the other airplane. So there was a plane like sitting right above the actual crash. And that's probably what Mr. Muir is talking about here. Did the pilot see that other plane, which was above and got off, didn't, maybe took a quick glance up and saw, oh, where's this plane coming from? And then ended up hitting the plane coming from Wichita, Kansas. There's been a reprimand issue for people who are living in the general area. As I just said, 30 bodies have been recovered. No survivors thus far. Few of the names have been released of the victims. They do not want anyone that lives in the general area to touch any of the debris that is washing up ashore. It says a warning was issued asking residents and visitors to not touch or remove debris they may see in the Potomac River or nearby, as the investigation into the deadly crash took place, and it's ongoing investigation. It says they could see the Potomac and Anacostia rivers or on the shore. The warning comes as recovery efforts remain underway for the tragic plane helicopter crash, killing 60 people in the Potomac River with no survivors being found. So it's sad that they would even have to give these instructions to people, but there are people who have to meddle, and they'll find this fascinating to go be nosy and prod and pick it up and touch it, God forbid, remove it from the water, from the shore. Please don't do that. Do not touch the debris. They're asking you to stay away from the general area. Then do as you're told. Just do as you're told. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Don't go taking no damn pictures. Just stay out of the way. Let these people do their investigation. Naturally, when it's time, they will show us all of the wreckage that they find, all of the pieces that they find. They'll give us the information from the black boxes. Just wait. And please don't send any drones up, because guess what? Just like the nonsense that took place with the wildfires in California and that drone hit that Canadian plane, your ass will go to jail for interference, because this is now government work. So if you want to be stupid enough to send your drone up, trying to be a nosy Parker, trying to see what you can see over the river and on the shore, knock yourself out. But when somebody comes to your door with a piece of paper, with a warrant, don't be surprised. As I've said before, it is time for everybody to stay in their lane. Stop meddling. Stop taking it upon yourself to feel like you are owed an explanation about something that has happened. It's not for you to know until it's time. And as I said, time might come, 1 month may come along, and we still don't get all of the information to what actually happened. You think that guy in the comptroller's controller box is going to take the blame? Oh, yeah, I was asleep. I fell asleep. I went to the potty. I went to the bathroom. I dozed off. I was looking at Facebook. Come on, keep it serious. He's not going to say that. He would not own that. They'd have to have footage that he was away from the desk, away from the window, camera showing him doing something he didn't have no business. But anyway, please, if you're in the general area, do not go near the wreckage. Don't go over there meddling. Don't pick up nothing. Don't touch nothing. And like I said, please do not send no drones up trying to see if you can get the latest story and version to put on TikTok and YouTube. Don't do that. Because as I said, it's time for people to stop meddling in things and let officials do their job, and so they can do it officially and do it proficiently, because we want it done right. And we don't need any interruptions for them to have to stop and halt and go chase somebody down with a damn drone and go look for somebody that went and took a piece of wreckage, because there's sick, crazy people out here that just do crazy stuff. Everybody acts like they're kids nowadays. And it's sad that you have to tell grown people, civilized and not to, meddle in official business. But we do have crazy people that need instruction. So that's the latest message to the public, is to just stay away from the wreckage. And if you happen to see it ashore, just don't touch it. Don't bother it. Don't go over there meddling with it. Just leave it alone.
Area, different angles. And at that moment, there was actually another plane in the foreground, not far off from the actual.
Well, Robert, I was hoping nobody would have to tell anybody that.
So many questions.
So there you go. Right there, that collision.
Altitude. That's, of course, early reporting here. We'll see if that bears out from the NTSB. They were asked actually about altitude, did not want to address that. They were also asked about whether or not there's any evidence.
Let's go back and look at that. Hold on.
The question of air traffic control, at one point, air traffic control did tell the Blackhawk helicopter and asked the Blackhawk helicopter pilot, did they
Well, they will say send them, Robin. That's what happened in California.
Did they see it? And the Blackhawk helicopter pilot actually said that, yes, they did. But moments later, that's when the accident happened. Now, President Trump earlier today did raise the question of, was that warning early enough? And so that's going to be something investigators are going to be looking at, too.
Big questions, too, about whether or not it might have been another aircraft in the sky that perhaps the team on that Blackhawk helicopter might have seen, because we've all seen those images captured on a number of cameras here in the Washington, D.C. area, different angles.
Yes.
And at that moment, there was actually another plane in
the air. Sure was.
Not far off from the actual regional jet and the Blackhawk helicopter that were involved in this. So many questions moving forward. And as Gio just mentioned, the altitude, that's, of course, early reporting here. We'll see if that bears out from the NTSB.
The plane landed behind him.
Wow. Did not want to address that. They were also asked about whether or not there's any evidence that the emergency slides or chutes had been deployed on this regional jet. They said so far there is no indication that was the case, but said, of course, it's still very early in this investigation. I want to bring in Martha Raddatz, our Chief Global Affairs Correspondent.
So before Martha gives her opinion, I'm sorry, I went back.
By expressing our...
this is so crazy. Did the guy flying, got thrown off by the plane above? This ain't good. Oh my goodness, this ain't good. This ain't good at all. It was close. You can see that big old plane in the air. I mean, it wasn't far from the ground. The one that was above the crash, and you have to admit it's a very, very strange situation. Very strange. Try to get back to this content. Hold on one second, everybody. Dang, this is crazy.
From both the regional jet and the recording device from the Blackhawk helicopter, though they made it very clear they believe both of those recording devices are still in the water. And we heard the NTSB say it's not uncommon that it would still be in the water at this point. They feel very strongly that they'll be able to get to that information. You heard the NTSB was asked about Defense Secretary Hegseth suggesting that there must have been some sort of a mistake last night. The NTSB would not go there, only simply to say that they will investigate all humans involved, all mechanics involved, the aircraft involved, as they move forward in their investigation. They did reveal that the FAA, as of 3 a.m. this morning, did deliver a batch of research information from air traffic control. I gather that will include communications and the logs from air traffic control, but we'll, of course, have to wait to report that out. They talked about this briefing actually coming before their meeting with the families involved, the families of the victims. They said that's somewhat rare to address the cameras and the public before meeting with the families, but they pointed out in this case, many of the families are still en route to the scene to meet with the NTSB. They said they do have their team ready to work with those families who are undergoing an unbearable loss at this point. And I want to bring in Gio Benitez. He covers aviation for us. And Gio, that was news that they don't have the data recorders yet, but they're very confident they'll get to them.
Absolutely, and it's critical, of course, David, that they actually find that. But there are so many questions here, and what you heard from the NTSB is a fairly typical first NTSB press conference after an accident, where they're sort of detailing the process of this investigation, because it takes them so much time to obtain this. And a lot of times, what we see at the very beginning with these stories isn't what the investigation ends up finding. We saw that with the Alaska door plug when it flew off back in January. We saw how that changed, and that's very likely what would happen here as well. There are some key questions, though, and certainly the Blackhawk helicopter being at 350 feet, that is at least what this preliminary flight data that we have right now says, because it was supposed to be at 200 feet or below. So that's going to be one question that they're going to be looking at for sure. By all accounts right now, the American Airlines plane had a normal approach as it was landing. That is what it looks like. The American Airlines CEO said that, and just about everyone has said that as well. But air traffic control, the question of air traffic control, at one point, air traffic control did tell the Blackhawk helicopter and asked the Blackhawk Blackhawk helicopter pilot, did they see the plane, this CRJ plane? Did they see it? And the Blackhawk helicopter pilot actually said that yes, they did. But moments later, that's when the accident happened. Now, President Trump earlier today did raise the question of, was that warning early enough? And so that's going to be something investigators are going to be looking at, too.
Big questions too about whether or not it might have been another aircraft in the sky that perhaps the team on that Blackhawk helicopter might have seen, because we've all seen those images captured on a number of cameras here in the Washington, D.C. area, different angles. And at that moment, there was actually another plane in the foreground, not far off from the actual regional jet and the Blackhawk helicopter that were involved.
Wow.
So many questions moving forward. And as Gio just mentioned, the altitude, that's of course early reporting here. We'll see if that bears out from the NTSB. They were asked actually about altitude and did not want to address that. They were also asked about whether or not there's any evidence that the emergency slides or chutes had been deployed on this regional jet. They said so far there is no indication that that was the case, but said, of course, it's still very early in this investigation. I want to bring in Martha Raddatz, our Chief Global Affairs Correspondent. Martha, you heard Gio mention the altitude there. Questions also for the NTSB here moments ago about sort of the flight patterns here and the routine training. You and I both know we often see Blackhawk helicopters over the Potomac, many of them carrying sort of diplomatic guests or members of the government, but many times they are undergoing routine training. And through your reporting, we've also learned that those who were on board the Blackhawk helicopter were very experienced.
They were very experienced, David, and they have done this route numerous times. This unit is in charge of what's called priority air transport. And just as you said, that's VIPs or leadership, that's civilian or military leadership. And what they practice is getting those people in and out of DC in an emergency, for instance, in a continuity of government. If something terrible happened in Washington, DC, they would want to get those leaders, those senior leaders out of the city for continuity of government. So these are important training flights. You had an instructor Blackhawk pilot on that flight and an evaluating pilot. And that instructor pilot would be helping the evaluating pilot qualify, something you just have to do regularly. It does not mean the evaluating pilot is not an experienced pilot. They just have to qualify probably once a year, and nighttime is part of that.
Exactly.
We believe they had night vision goggles on. Pete Hegseth said that this morning. President Trump said he was not sure, but that is a very routine thing to do, is use those night vision goggles. It's harder to fly, according to pilots I have talked to, with those night vision goggles.
I'm not sure, Don.
Especially with a lighted city in front of you. They're great in the desert when you
I thought the plane was coming in that way, but I'm not really sure.
It's more difficult to fly when you have lights ahead of you. That is something they will definitely be looking at to see if perhaps that had anything to do with this, David.
And a quick follow-up for you, Martha, because one of the central questions, and there are so many questions this early on, but one of the central questions will be that conversation that's already been made public between the air traffic controller. Reach out about 30 seconds or so. That's what's been reported before the collision took place to that Blackhawk helicopter, saying to be aware, obviously, of the regional jet. Do you see it? The answer was yes. And then
So what happened? If the controller is asking the pilot of the helicopter, do you see the jet? And he said yes. Then why was there a collision? Very interesting information. So I'm assuming we'll hear that conversation in a recording. I'm assuming that all those interactions are recorded between the pilots and the controller. This is very wicked information. To be asking someone, do you see? So that would make you wonder, perhaps the controller is between now the controller and the pilot of a helicopter at this point, depending on how you want to weigh it. Or did he just see it? I don't know. This ain't good, though. I know that. But he replied, yes, I see it. So what happened? My goodness gracious. This is really bad. So everyone's acknowledging that the plane is in the air. I'm assuming the helicopter, the pilot of the plane, he saw the helicopter. So my God, what happened? And as I said, when you see that plane flying overhead, it's awfully close. It probably scared the people in that plane. Like, what the hell? Let's talk about that. Imagine being in the aircraft above the crash. That's enough to startle somebody that's flying another plane. So we're lucky that plane didn't go down, because you can't tell me that would not have startled the pilot and the co-pilot of the plane above the crash. They're already taking off, and poof, here's a crash, and it's like, okay, I'm mid-air, what the hell's going on here? Then the people on the plane, God forbid they're looking out the window. Oh, man. Can you imagine that being in your eyesight and ear sight while flying a damn airplane, being on an airplane? Forgot about that. The people above in that flight who saw it, heard it, they're probably wanting off of that plane. Lord Jesus, turn around. Please turn around. Because that would frighten anyone who flies and likes to fly, such as me. I don't fly often, but I do like to fly. When I do travel, I do like to fly. I don't have a problem flying. I don't think of anything negative when I'm flying. I get my happy butt in that seat. I sit down, I buckle up, I look out the window, and then when it gets too high, I say, time to shut it. Let me shut the window. Let me shut the shade, because I don't want to keep looking out, especially when you're going over water. That's just something I really don't like looking at. And trust me, once you fly over Lake Michigan and Lake Pontchartrain, you really don't want to look at water. Now, the water up north is way prettier. Lake Pontchartrain just looks nasty, murky brown. And trust me, when you already ready to hurry up and get out that chair, that ain't what you want to look at. So what I do is I just shut the shade down. I'm like, I'm going to wait till she tells me, we're about to land. Please fasten your seatbelts, please. But just imagine being in an airplane, the one that sat above the crash. Those people, they now have that in their database, in their memory database. And God forbid there was anybody who had that damn shade up looking out. They got a visual of the damn crash. Imagine the people driving. There were people who were actually on the road driving, and they saw the crash. That's just something you don't want to see ever. It's a plane crash. And for some of you who don't know, last week, I told one of the chat members, Mary, about a dream I had, and she can verify this. Last week, I had a dream that a plane crashed here in Knoxville. And, naturally, dreams mean a lot of things. Of course, I did end up Googling, because I have a friend, Facebook friend. She's an airline stewardess, and she flies for private aircrafts. So naturally, she was irritated today on Facebook because people were saying nasty things about people suing and all that. And like she said, people are dead. What are you talking about? Is this all you can think about? Because this is how ignorant people are. People just do not know how to talk and converse themselves in tragic situations. Just say any damn thing. And she's like, I'm thinking about coming off of Facebook, deactivate. And I'm like, oh, I already know about it. I've tried it 2 weeks ago. It's just the stuff that people say. They just don't think, don't care. And naturally, she don't want to hear none of that, because she's on airplanes every day. She's elevated her career. She's taken a new position. She's now, I believe, working out of New York. God bless her. So she doesn't want to hear anything negative about nothing, because she could have been one of those people on the plane. So she don't want to hear anything negative, and I get that. And if you fly, you don't want to hear anything negative. You don't want to hear anything about planes falling out of the sky, crashing in a damn river, people not being able to survive. Because like I tell people, it don't matter that you can swim. You're not getting ready to swallow no damn lake or no ocean or no river. Some people have been fortunate to fall in the water from an aircraft and survive. Some have not. Some have not. And you don't want to have to find out how well you can swim. Believe that. The water was icy. The water was icy Wednesday night, okay? And sadly, divers have to go in that water trying to find people, their remains, debris. And that's a hell of a job. So the fact that somebody has to tell another human being to have some respect for those who lost their lives, those who are going to mourn these people, and then the people who have to go in there and try to find those dead people, show some damn respect. This is why people don't really like, hearing people give their, 2 cents about what happened, didn't happen, because their loved ones are dead. And naturally, some of these people are going to want somebody to blame. In time, they'll want somebody to blame, especially when the findings come out, depending on, what they find out. But for right now, everybody needs to show some respect. There's dead people. And they're dead. They don't know what happened. We don't even know what they were feeling, what they were thinking at the time of the crash. If they sensed something was wrong. Co-pilot sensed something was wrong. Hey, he's coming toward us. Or the helicopter saying the same thing. See, we don't know because they're dead. And I don't think people understand that. And nobody should even have to explain that to you. You're an adult. You're not a child. Have some respect. That could have been you up there in one of those aircrafts. And fortunately for you, you're alive. They're not. So what happened? Poor visual, poor direction, last minute call. What happened? We will see.
And the early reporting now, and you could hear it in the audio, is that air traffic control then reaches back out to the Blackhawk helicopter just seconds before the collision, asking yet again to wait for the regional jet to go by, and there was no response. That's going to be looked at very carefully here.
It certainly will be, David. And that helicopter, we can't stress enough, they were flying visual only. This wasn't an instrument landing. This wasn't, I can't see anything, so I'm going to let my instruments help me land. They had visual verification.
Good point, Robin.
Said of that regional jet. Obviously, there was a mistake made. We don't know exactly why or what exactly happened when that helicopter rammed into that jet. But that last...
So the helicopter rammed, okay.
Hear them answer, that will be key. David?
Martha Raddatz with us here for our live coverage of this NTS briefing, the first of its kind with this investigation underway. Martha, thank you. One last question here from former Air Force pilot, ABC News aviation consultant.
So before he gets into that, so we have Martha saying the helicopter rammed into the jet. Pilot only saw the plane above him, which means that is bad. Either way, it's bad. Whatever they find out, nobody's going to be happy with the findings. So whether they assume they know what happened, they guesstimate what happened, it still ain't good. You're talking about 67 people now gone. They're not coming back. But somebody must have told Martha something to say he rammed into her, to the jet. And yes, the jet is flying at a higher, at a quicker, what I'm trying to say, faster pace. You ain't gonna be able to stop in time. Not in front of no jet. I can tell you that because I rode on a jet many years ago, from Knoxville to Chicago. That was the summer of 2003. And let me tell you, that jet was getting up. And I ain't gonna lie to you. That jet actually flew over the apartment building where I was living at the time and coming back. That jet was moving so damn fast from Tennessee to Chicago that just as quick as it got off the ground, my right hand to God, as quick as that damn jet got off the ground and I could look down and see trees, which it was August, so trees were still in full bloom. I'm looking at those trees and I'm looking, that scenery changed so damn fast. I turn my head out, turn my head back out the window, I'm already over water. You hear what I'm saying to you? I'm already over water. And I know some of you are saying, what? You damn right. That's how fast a jet moves. That as quick as you're looking at one scenery, you're already states away from where you just last looked. That's how fast that jet goes. It's like a blink of your eye. That's how fast that damn thing is pulling up. And that's what just like stunned me because I was like, wait a minute, I was just looking at trees. and the scenery changed to where next thing I'm looking at water. I'm almost in Chicago, just that damn quick. So I can't imagine how fast that damn jet was roaring in, trying to get in. And Robert makes a good point. Could it be he didn't see the jet, but he saw the plane above? Because they said it's a difficult situation in the dark trying to fly with city lights. City lights plus plane lights. Oh my God, I can't imagine. I don't want to know. I don't want to find out. Let me tell you, I don't want to be on the ground. I don't want to be on the plane. Naturally, I ain't going to know nothing once it's an explosion. You're not going to feel it. That's probably the only good thing about it. It's an explosion mid-air or in the air, 2,400 feet from the damn airport, which is even more disturbing. You're not going to feel it. I'm just going to pray to God nobody felt that. But this is very scary. And for anybody that's never flown, this right here would scare the hell out of them to make them not to ever want to fly. That's why a lot of people don't like flying, because they hear, horrible stories. And we rarely have plane crashes here in America. Usually the only plane crashes we hear of are commuter planes. Smaller planes tend to have crashes, I've noticed, but not big boy planes and jets. They usually don't fall out of the sky here in America. Now, maybe other countries have had some plane crashes, but not here. As you heard here, it's been 20-something years since we've had a plane crash. I believe they said 24 years or so. So it's been a long, 40-something years, 82. So we're talking about a long, long time. It's 24 or 40-something years. So it's been a long time since a plane is falling out of the air here in America. But nonetheless, this has happened, so it's a new record now. And the fact that they had a misstep the day before between a helicopter and a plane, that's not good either. So Reagan has a problem. And that's been said in the commentary I brought to you all. They have a controller problem. They have a staffing problem. So now everybody who's been flying in and out of DC are probably glad to be alive with this new information. And this isn't going to help people want to fly out of there, because they're going to say, okay, well, wait a minute. You didn't have staff while I've been flying in and out of here? You didn't have the right people? You didn't have enough people? Maybe they had, appropriate staff. Let me rephrase that. You've got somebody with training, but you don't got another person that's supposed to be alongside him or her. And as you hear in this story, one controller, that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be two. One for the helicopters, one for the plane. One person trying to look for the planes and the damn helicopters, and it's dark outside. And your vision is not as great looking in the dark. I don't give a damn if you got 20/20 vision. You're not out there in the air and you ain't on the ground. So this is scary. This is very scary. I see what they're going to find, quite frankly. I'm leery, because either way, as I said, nobody's going to be happy with the results. This may be actually human error, because there are humans flying it. It's not AI generated. So there you go. Wasn't a drone flying people. It wasn't a Martian or alien flying people. It was a human being flying a military helicopter and also a jet. And then we have the comptroller. So somebody's going to try to put the blame on either one of these parties. This is bad.
John Nass. John, thanks for being here as well, because for people watching across this country, it's been more than 2 decades since we have reported a air disaster of this scope here in this country. And one of the things that everyone has heard at home already is that air traffic control audio. What do you make of the interaction between air traffic control, the Blackhawk helicopter, acknowledging that they saw the plane? Still unclear whether it was the actual plane or a different plane in that airspace as well that might have distracted them. And again, this is all just speculation and something the NTSB will have to answer. But when you see the video, you see the collision, and you hear the audio of the air traffic control, the exchange some 30 seconds before that collision, what does that indicate to you so far?
indicates to me so far that there is almost a certainty to the fact that there was a confusion, and how that confusion came about is going to be one of the key elements of the investigation. But they acknowledged that they saw the jetliner, and I'm sure that's exactly what they thought they were seeing.
Right there.
Pointed out there's so many lights around, there's so many opportunities to not have the right thing. I can't tell you how many times in my career, both military and civilian, I've accepted the responsibility and said, yes, I have them in sight, and hoped that I really did have the right one in sight, because it's very difficult. Also, the pace of communications is something that needs to be talked about. The communication.
Now you have this expert saying, I hope I had the right one in sight. Well, it ain't going to matter now about the helicopter because they're dead. They can't tell us anything. They're deceased. Everybody on that flight is deceased. Everybody on the aircraft is deceased. So who's going to tell you the truth about what I saw? So now we're going to rely on our what? Recordings. If indeed you have somebody saying, yes, I see the aircraft. But as we're saying now that we know that another plane was sitting above them en route, I guess leaving the airport, did the pilot of the Blackhawk mean he see the plane that's above him, not the one that he's getting ready to crash into? Oh, Lord have mercy. This is so bad. This is so bad. Hello, how you doing?
Are single, in other words, push to talk, one voice, pardon me, in either direction at a time. And what you end up with is a situation where we have crammed as much information as we can get, and there's a lot of confusion that comes about. People are talking too fast.
Yeah.
And John, when you look at some of this early reporting and the numbers, when you're talking about that plane, you heard Gio mention this, that American Airlines.
See the airplane go by?
That their data so far shows that plane was coming in for a very normal landing and had been told to go to runway 33 to change runway sometime beforehand, but had redirected and was coming in. And American Airlines so far saying that everything looked extremely normal, at least given what they've had access to so far. And the idea, the notion that this regional jet was some 2,400 feet from a normal landing there on the runway, it's just extraordinary that this would play out moments before all of those passengers would have been safely down. 2,400
feet. And you saw, while he's talking, while they were showing that, well, that plane just went right by. That's how close they are to the airport. That's how close the water is to the airport, which for Queen, I don't care for that. I'm just going to go on and say it. I don't care for that. Yeah, you can tell the water isn't deep, because I'm looking at the boats and the water does not look deep from the appearances of the river. But either way, water is still water. So it's dark too. It's kind of hard to try to save people once a plane hits. It's not like it landed and then started sinking. That's not what happened. It already exploded in the air. And there probably were no survivors once, both aircrafts collided. But it's just weird looking at these people talk and see an airplane go zip by, and you're sitting here thinking, damn, that airplane's close to the water, because the airport's close to the water. I don't think an airport should be near no damn water. That's my take on it. I don't think an airport needs to be near no water. No, ma'am. No, don't put an airport. An airport don't need to be near no damn water. That just looks creepy. Him standing there talking and a damn whole airplane goes by. And it's not even in the air. And you just look at this like, okay, so you're right near the water? Oh, no. Then you talk about bad weather, a place where it snows and it's ice, and you're near water? That's what they were talking about earlier. A plane had hit a bridge, and then pieces of it or whatever, parts of it fell into the water, because naturally the bridge is over the water. So, see, that ain't no good. You don't want no water near a damn airport. And naturally, most airports have been around a very long time. So I'm sure there are a few airports in America that are near water, but it ain't no good idea. Open fields is the only damn thing you need to have near the airport. But we know that's not realistic because out in O'Hare in Chicago, when those planes take off, they're going over houses, neighborhoods, apartment buildings. You can just look out the window as soon as the plane take off. You're looking at apartment buildings, you're looking at houses, rows of bungalows. But God, I don't want to be near no water as soon as I take off. I mean, like you probably just walk from the airport and just jump in the damn river. It's about 2,400 feet. That's not far. No.
I'm sure they didn't have any idea what hit them. And it was at such a low altitude, you're concentrating only on putting the airplane on the runway. It's right there in front of you. This is not the point in time at which
I don't know, Chip.
Electronics, for instance, could help you. We have a thing called a TCAS, a traffic collision avoidance system. It cuts out at about 1,000 feet because you wouldn't want it coming on to say dive when you're at 200 feet. The altitude is going to be one of the things, too. They're going to look at the altitude of both jets, but it does appear that the American Airlines was right where he was supposed to be.
So that's the latest coming from a couple of hours ago, ABC News. They're doing round-and-round coverage if you want to watch it continuously. So far, they've been pretty good and informative with their information. That's probably the network I'm going to stick with to get my updates on this right now, as of now, because, you know, anything can change, like they're saying. It looks like the airplane coming from Wichita was on course, redirected to go around to lane 33, and looks like allegedly doing what it was supposed to do. So then that only leaves the helicopter. What was the helicopter? The person flying the helicopter, what was he doing? Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord, have mercy. This is so bad. Both were turning towards the airport. Well, what you got to ask yourself, if the airline was doing what it's supposed to do, then what was the helicopter not doing? Because it can't be both. If one was on course and each said they saw the other one, then why are we talking about an explosion and dead people? Somebody didn't see something. Sad to say. But if they've already started listening to conversations from the controller and they already got recordings of each person talking back to the controller, then this is naturally possibly a human error on somebody's part. That's why I said nobody's going to be happy with the results. And who you're going to blame, because the only person alive is the controller. You're going to get mad at the guy flying the plane. He was in training. How many hours was he in training? Was he excelling at his training? So you got to ask all those questions. This is bad. This is really bad.
And John, one last question for you. You heard the NTSB confirm what we learned from the fire chief this morning, and that is they
to the bridge.
There are no survivors.
The wind carried the debris to the bridge.
Evidence that the slides or the chutes on that regional jet were deployed, though it's still very early. They acknowledge that. And there are also early reports that fuselage, that jet is in at least 2 to 3 pieces in the water, as well as that Blackhawk helicopter. When you see that video of that collision, that explosion in the nighttime sky and where they landed, you'd be hard pressed to think that anyone could have survived that kind of
not explosion, no.
Waters that are 32 to 36 degrees here.
See where it's coming in?
Yes, that's a very correct statement, David. I think, first of all, when I saw that and managed to evaluate it a little bit, the speed with which the fuselage, the remains of the airplanes and the helicopter hit the water, probably that was unsurvivable. But even if somebody had survived that, the waters were going to give you about at 36 degrees around maybe 35 or 40 minutes of useful consciousness, maybe less.
He couldn't stop, Britt. Since going too fast,
6
can't stop.
passengers, 4 crew on board that plane, 3 service members.
No way a
on
jet
board
can
that
stop.
Blackhawk helicopter.
It's not a bus.
Are thinking of them all and of all of their families.
It's not like riding a bus.
The NTSB say some of those families are still being notified as we're on the air right now. I'm going to return you now to regular programming. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, abcnews.com, of course, 24 hours a day. And then we'll be back with the entire team for a special edition of World News Tonight.
Oh, Lord.
I'm David Muir right here along the Potomac. I'll see you a little later today. Good day.
Well, I won't be putting up a poll pertaining to this because I don't want to ask any questions pertaining to who did what and didn't do whatever. I don't think it'd be appropriate to ask any questions because I'm not an airline pilot and I have no idea what in God's name happened. Oh, Lord have mercy. This is bad. That's all I can say. And I'm sure many people are afraid to fly now after this because this isn't something we're expecting. Trying to get, see, somebody has the latest. Let's see what they got. Any latest updates? I'm almost 2 hours into this live stream, everybody. Welcome to the Vault Excel. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome to the live stream. Condolences and prayers to all those who lost their lives, all 67 people and crew. God bless us.
It was incredibly devastating.
Talk about your friendship with this family.
You know, we are a really close-knit community.
You're welcome, Robert.
The skaters,
thank you for
we
watching.
are all connected. So when something happens to one of us, it reverberates through everyone. In fact, I've been on, we have a...
Let me interrupt right quick. What do you say, Britt? The jet definitely was not in control of this or responsible, in my opinion, okay? I think it was coming from the Wilson Bridge. Okay, Chip. Well, I don't know. My thing is, if they both said they saw each other, I mean, the thing is, you can't ask them nothing because they're dead. What's the old saying? A dead man tells no tales? I mean, well, what all you got are the black boxes at this point. One box has been recovered. For those of you coming into this live stream late, thank you so much for watching, everybody. One of the boxes from the American Airlines flight, one of the black boxes has been recovered, as I reported probably about an hour ago. So for those of you who are curious, one of the boxes has been recovered. We're talking about at least 30 days before we get information of what the boxes reveal. We have Miss Martha Radix reporting for ABC News saying that the helicopter, oh, Lord. What did she say? It ran into the damn jet. Or hell, the jet ran into the helicopter. I don't know. I'd have to see it. I can't see. That just showed me an explosion. I know something was moving. I saw that. And then something hit something. This is, I just don't know. Typically, the helicopters fly on 495 on top of Alexandria. Yeah, all they got are the boxes and the ATC controller. That's all you're going to have at this point. That's all you got. Unless you got somebody who was out stargazing. Don't get me started on that. Somebody was out stargazing, and they just happened to be looking up in the sky. They probably didn't have to look up high because the planes weren't even up that high. So, Jesus, was there anybody out there Wednesday night watching, stargazing, that can tell us what they saw? Because we're lucky to even get a video footage of the collision. I was stunned when I saw that hours ago. I said, what? They've got video? Get out of town.
A text chain with all the American gold medalists, and we've just been supporting each other through texting and figuring out ways that we can help the families who have lost someone in the skating community and beyond. We're just mourning their loss.
And talking about this skating community, where does the figure skating community go from here? I mean, this is such a huge impact, and it's not just one neighborhood, it's across the country. And as you noted too, many of these relationships go on for years and years. How do you move forward from this?
And we realized that we have moved on forward from this, from the 1961 plane crash, that we lost our entire world team. So within years, we have lost, many incredible skaters. And from the 1961 plane crash, we did rise from that. It took years to build. And in fact, the 61 plane crash was specifically devastating to the skating club of Boston as well, like this plane crash. But from that growth from 1961, we rebuilt figure skating, and we discovered people like Peggy Fleming, who was really the seedling for growing figure skating into what it is today again. So even though we've lost these incredibly talented young kids that were at this championship camp, we have to keep in mind that they will inspire.
I thought you were making a joke.
And the next generation of younger skaters, their story.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time, and our hearts go out to you and the entire.
Well, let me look it up. See.
Thank you.
Hold on.
We turn now to President Trump's sharp words at the White House today, blaming the deadly accident on the previous administration's DEI policies. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce asking him what evidence he's seen to support that claim.
Tonight, with the recovery effort underway and the investigation only just beginning, President Trump, without any evidence, blaming the diversity policies of his predecessors for the deadly crash.
A group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately.
The president accusing the previous administrations of hiring air traffic controllers based on diversity goals, not qualifications. Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power.
But Trump also acknowledged he wasn't sure if the air traffic controllers made any mistakes. Former President Biden's Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg responding, despicable, saying as families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, grew air traffic control, and had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch.
Oh, Lord. I'm going to stop there. I'm sick of hearing that bullshit. So we got a guy talking about a text message from his wife. People are blasting the reporter for asking to see the text, which you are wrong to ask. If he wants to share that with us, that's different. Let's hear from this guy who said he saw the plane crash. Hold on, you guys. I want to bring another device to show what this guy says he saw. One second.
So a young man came up to us and he said, I saw it. And we want to be able to show you kind of his side. He's left since now. He's really trying to, you could tell when you looked at him, he's a little bit shell-shocked in this whole incident. And he really wanted to express sort of how in awe he was of what happened. But, in the moments, this is what he told us. If we can play that sound about what Jimmy Maisel saw earlier tonight. Take a listen.
So tonight, I was with my girlfriend at the park, at Gravelly Point Park, right next to Reagan National Airport, and we were eating dinner, just as normal, taking in the nice views, and...
Oh my goodness. They got to show a commercial. Sorry about that. Lord have mercy.
We noticed the planes started having regular patterns, and they all kind of dispersed from their regular landing patterns, and then we looked up before that, and we saw these white flare.
What do you think when you saw these white flares?
We didn't think much of it. We thought they were like shooting stars, boats. It was insane. It was really insane.
What can you, for people who didn't see it, what did you feel as you're watching all this happen?
I felt very curious. I wondered what the giant response was for. I was just like waiting for the answer. So I was very like on edge, trying to find out.
And now have you kind of heard a little more about? We're kind of getting details coming out. What is it, to your understanding, you've heard is what's going on?
From my understanding, is that a American Airlines flight came into contact or had a crash with a military helicopter right before landing. So,
I'm telling you that. Was there any?
I think it was released by the FAA.
My question is, you were actively deployed. Like, I mean, this has just changed the whole night. What do you think about all this as you're kind of standing here looking at the response going on?
I'm really just in awe. Of course, it's terrible what happened tonight, but I think that it's crazy that we got to experience what happened tonight. But I'm, praying for all the people that were involved in this. So.
Okay, not much of nothing, really.
In terms of talking to people, earlier today,
I don't. Hold on. Let me see if I can find the collision. Hold on 1 second. This is just, I don't know. I don't think he knows what the hell he's talking about. I don't understand a word he was saying. I'm not trying to be rude. I just didn't understand what he was saying. One second, everybody. Let's see. They're going to show it. Hold on 1 second. There we go. There's the plane above. Let me go back. That's hold on 1 minute. 1 second, everybody. So let's all try to pay attention here. This is crazy. Wait 1 second. Well, that plane was quite a ways up. I wonder how many feet that other plane was. This is crazy. So we have a young guy talking about seeing sparks flying. What does that mean? Because he didn't say, I heard a crash, then saw sparks flying. So what was he talking about? I'm confused.
And our thanks to Mary Bruce. And as we head back to Philip,
I think he's high, but he was on the news telling his truth. Oh, darn. Yeah, he wasn't making any sense.
The
I'm sorry.
runway that the airplane was headed toward, 33, is now closed until February 7th. Phil?
All right, Whit, thank you. We are also tracking several headlines around the world right now. 8 more hostages released by Hamas today as the ceasefire deal in Gaza enters its second week. 3 Israelis, 5 Thai citizens were handed over to the...
New York Post is the source. Hold on, I got a commercial. Oh, they show so many commercials. Jesus. That other video was a better footage with the airplane. That one was a little ways above them, though. The airplane. So I'm trying to understand. I don't know which plane he saw. The plane he hit or the plane that was above. Don't know. Here's footage of the wreckage at night. Imagine going in this icy water trying to retrieve dead people. Wreckage. This is serious business. Because this is a job. This is somebody's job, going down in this murky water, retrieving wreckage and deceased people. It's serious. So this isn't time for biasness and blaming people and DI programs and who ain't hired, who ain't proficient, who ain't in a superior situation, or this bullshit. This isn't the time for that. Everybody's vouching for these Blackhawk pilots and trainees, but something happened. Don't know what happened. But this isn't a time to be talking about blue, red, yellow, white, black, who ain't qualified. You got to have proof. Is this an issue of misjudgment? Just saying. You got to make it make sense. Damn. Them folks didn't have a chance. Man, they didn't have a chance.
The IDF footage shows chaotic scenes at the time of release as militants struggled to control the crowds and clear a clear pathway for the hostages. In exchange, Israel releasing more than 100 Palestinian prisoners. Also today, Hamas announcing the death of Mohammed Deif, believed to be one of the masterminds of the October 7th attack. Hundreds of people gathered in the Congolese city of Bukavu to register for a potential counter.
I'm going to turn that off. So I'm going to read you a little bit of an update pertaining to this incident. Right now it's saying timeline of air traffic controllers issuing warnings before American Airlines plane Blackhawk helicopter collision. So controllers mean there was more than one. So which is it? It was one, it was two. Well, what? Because they're always saying they're having issues. They've had issues in the past with not having enough staff members in the tower. So how many people were watching? How many people were working? Were they lucid? Can they see well? When the last time they had an eye test? Did anybody go take a pee break? You got to ask all those questions. You got to ask all these questions for everybody involved. Was everybody up to date in their training? Eyewear, eye test, everything. Drugs, alcohol, what? Just asking. The body of the plane was found upside down in 3 sections in waist-deep water. So waist-deep. Maybe had the plane went in the water, the people could have lived. Don't know. The wreckage of the helicopter, which was carrying 3 soldiers, was also found. There was no immediate word on the cause of the latest collision, but officials said flight conditions were clear as the jet coming from Wichita, Kansas, was making a routine landing when the helicopter flew into its path. So now they're saying, okay, the helicopter flew in its path. This information is by MSN, New York Post, if you need verification for the information. So the footage believed to have been taken from a terminal inside the Ronald Reagan National Airport, which we could see that because, you see the planes and everything grounded. Captured the moment of impact between AA Flight 5342 and the Army Black Hawk helicopter at about 9 p.m. Damn. Fiery orange explosion could be seen engulfing the sky just seconds after the 2 aircraft made contact before plummeting into the frigid Potomac River below. It comes as audio also emerged from the air traffic controllers of the moment the horror was first reported, with one. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. Another air traffic controller could be heard saying, "It was probably out in the middle of the river. I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone. I haven't seen anything since they hit the river." So this article says 28 bodies found, but I last brought you information, 30 have been retrieved from the waters. Okay? Oh, damn. The jet was carrying 64 people. 3 soldiers on board of the helicopter. Lord have mercy. This is considered one of the worst U.S. aviation disasters in more than 2 decades. We are now at the point we're switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. John Donnelly, the fire chief in the nation's capital, said on Thursday, "We don't believe there are any survivors." Damn. Military chopper plane collision over D.C. was absolutely preventable, new transportation boss says. Well, of course you'd say that. We don't know what the hell happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not about to say. deadliest crash since 2009, in case you all were curious of the last airplane crash. Looks like it should have been prevented. So we got District of Columbia, crash, joint base. You got an airplane. I'm trying to understand. It's the airport. Yeah, the airport sits right on the water. Oh, they don't need to be on the river. Hell no. No, 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 no. I'm trying to read something, you guys. All right, I'm going to repeat to you what was said from the air traffic control audio. Okay, everybody? This is what was said. Pat 25, do you have a CRJ in sight? Pat 25, pass behind CRJ. An air traffic controller said at 8:47 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. Okay? Repeat. Pat 25, do you have a CRJ in sight? Pat 25, pass behind CRJ. An air traffic controller said. Seconds later, another aircraft called into air traffic control saying, Tower, did you see that? Apparently referring to the crash. An air traffic controller then redirected planes heading to runway 33 at Reagan Washington National Airport to go around. So see, this is what's crazy. So now you got all these airplanes flying at the same damn time. Sounds like a bad rap song. At the same damn time. Two done crashed, one's flying over. Hey, did you see that? And then now he's directing other people to go around. Crash, crash, crash. This is an alert 3. One of the air traffic controllers can be heard saying in the audio from around the time of the crash. I don't know if you caught earlier what happened, but there was a collision on approach into 33. We're going to be shutting down operations for the indefinite future, another controller remarked. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river. A third air controller can be heard saying, Jesus wept. It was probably out in the middle of the river, the controller said. I just saw a fireball, and then it was just gone. I haven't seen anything since they hit the river. But it was a CRJ and a helicopter that hit. So CRJ would be the helicopter. So let me go back up here. So this is what he's saying. Okay. CRJ and a helicopter. So that's the jet. Okay? So we're going to go back up here and repeat what was said. Pat 25 must be the helicopter. Pat 25, do you have a CRJ? So he's asking the helicopter, do you see the jet? Pat 25, do you have a CRJ in sight? Pat 25, pass behind the CRJ. An air traffic controller said at 8:47 p.m. Jesus wept. He didn't see it. Oh, Lord have mercy. What a mess. He couldn't have seen it. Something. Couldn't have seen it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know else how to dissect this one. A U.S. official said no senior military officials were on the helicopter, while U.S. figure skating said several skaters had been on board the American Airlines flight. Oh, damn. Damn. This is bad, man. Audio from liveatc.net, a respected source for in-flight recording, captured the final communications between the 3 crew members of the helicopter, call sign Pat 25, before collided with the CRJ-700 Bombardier jet carrying 64 passengers and crew. So they're telling him, whoever's flying the helicopter, do you see the jet? Damn, man. Get behind the jet. I don't know. This is bad. This is so bad. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. We don't want to hear nothing about no damn Donald Trump. Give it a rest. So what happened? He didn't see the plane? Because I'm not here to judge, but I'd like to get, a receipt before passing judgment. But damn, this is bad. And obviously they're congested. That's been said. Too many planes are going in and out. That's why I made a comment when I saw the one plane flying overhead. I thought, can you imagine being on that plane and you're watching out your window a damn plane and a helicopter crash and you're on a plane? How good would you feel sitting in the seat of that airplane? You wouldn't be feeling good. Imagine somebody who's never flown and they're looking out the damn window at two planes crash, a plane and a helicopter crash. Imagine being at the airport looking out the window seeing them crash. Lord have mercy, this is bad. Oh, Jesus help us.
On where it should have been. And tonight, new questions about whether that one air traffic controller was doing the work of two controllers. And tonight here, my interview with the DC fire chief, what his divers found when they reached the wreckage 10 minutes after the crash, the fuselage in multiple parts. And tonight, images of the Blackhawk helicopter submerged in the Potomac, and what we're now learning about those service members. Were they wearing night vision goggles during routine training? Our team here on the ground, a special edition of World News Tonight, begins now.
ABC News, everybody.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, reporting tonight from Washington, D.C. Good evening tonight from Washington, D.C. We are here along the banks of the Potomac, the scene of America's deadliest plane crash in nearly 20
Well, I ain't trying to imagine it now, Chip.
Helicopter on a night plane.
I don't do water.
With an American Air 2 with 60 passengers and 4 crew members. The jet had taken off from Wichita, Kansas, and was coming in for landing, nearly reaching runway 33 here. Tonight, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy saying, quote, everything was standard in the lead up to the crash. So tonight there are many questions how this happened, and you will hear the air traffic controller asking the Blackhawk, do you see the jet? The Army crew answering yes. The images right here tonight, an airport surveillance camera capturing the moment the two aircraft collide, the jet and the Blackhawk falling into the icy Potomac below. The jet breaking into multiple pieces, more than 300 first responders rushing to the scene, firefighters, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Army, and the NTSB. Tonight, my interview with the D.C. fire chief, who told me his team reached the wreckage in the water 10 minutes after the crash. Divers working through the night, searching the waters for any possible survivors. Among those on board, 14 figure skaters, their coaches and family members.
Well, somebody was trying to land, it looks like, because the airport is right here. When you look at the picture.
By daylight, that rescue effort.
I don't understand none of this.
Tonight, we've learned nearly 40 bodies pulled from the water, but officials say the wreckage will need
now at 40
to recover the others.
So they've been working hard.
Before the crash, the American flight was asked to change runways. The pilots agreed. They changed course. They were coming in. And we know that air traffic control reached the Blackhawk, and you'll hear the audio. They confirmed seeing that jet. And tonight here, the faces of some of the victims, the young skaters, and President Trump today asking for a moment of silence, but then appearing to imply blame for the crash. But we start here with the investigation, the deadly collision in the air, and so many lives lost. Tonight, the deadliest air disaster in the U.S. in nearly 24 years. Last night, 8:48 p.m., the deadly catastrophic collision over the Potomac River. An American Airlines regional jet and a U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter colliding. The emergency calls were immediate.
Crash, crash, crash. This is alert 3. Crash, crash, crash. This is alert 3.
The regional jet, American Airlines Flight 5342 from Wichita, Kansas, was coming in for landing, just 2,400 feet left to go.
So it was almost there.
Did you see that?
These images of the deadly collision now being closely examined
That's
by
the
federal
plane.
authorities. The moment captured on an EarthCam live stream at the Kennedy Center. The horror lighting up the night sky.
So the plane was coming in this way.
A fireball in the air, sending both aircraft plummeting into the icy, waist-deep waters of the Potomac.
Jesus.
The passenger jet breaking into multiple parts. Some 300 first responders on the scene in minutes, conducting a massive search and rescue operation. Emergency vehicles lining up along the Potomac River, using their lights to illuminate the river. Helicopters flying overhead, using their searchlights to scan the dark, frigid waters. Dive teams searching in the water barely above freezing. Late today, DC Fire Chief
barely above freezing.
Your teams encountered very challenging conditions.
Yes, they did.
The river is dark, it's cold, it's windy. There's ice on there, and they're looking for a plane that's underwater.
Jesus.
So it's a very
upside down
response initially, and within 10 minutes of the accident happening, the first fireboat found the plane and began to conduct what they were hoped to be rescue operations.
Chief, you broke the very difficult news today that there were no survivors here.
I can't imagine a worse scenario for rescue operations. They've been working really hard in it.
What did they find in terms of the fuselage of the plane?
So you see the pictures now. It's broken up, but it's all in the same area.
And the Blackhawk helicopter?
It's in one piece, as best I understand.
One piece.
Overnight, the grim, agonizing wait for desperate families, many who do not live here, who were watching along with the rest of the country.
Okay, I gotta stop here. The Blackhawk is in one piece. Come again? How is the Blackhawk in one piece? I'm confused. The plane broke in 3 pieces, but the Blackhawk is in one piece. I'll be damned. I'll be damned. This is crazy.
The country waiting for word. Tonight, it is now believed 67 lives lost. 60 passengers.
Something don't sound right there, man. I gotta get a drink on that, y'all. I'm sorry.
3 service members on board the U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter on a routine training flight, according to the FAA. The service members were all experienced. Tonight, satellite images of the recovery operation on the Potomac, boats gathering near wreckage debris, emergency response vessels nearby, but they were not needed. And while the investigation is still very early, Flight 5342 from Wichita was approaching, preparing to land at Reagan National Airport from the south. Minutes before the jet was to land, air traffic controllers asking the American Airlines flight to change runways, to land on a shorter runway, runway 33. The pilots agreed, and air traffic control clearing them to land. The pilots adjusting their approach and prepared to come in for landing. Reportedly less than 30 seconds before the crash, you hear air traffic control also ask the crew piloting the Blackhawk helicopter if they saw the regional jet. The helicopter pilot says yes. The controller makes another radio call to that helicopter, telling them to pass behind the CRJ, the regional jet. There was no reply. Seconds later, the collision. And with those 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board that plane, the plane's radio transponder stopped transmitting just 2,400 feet before they would have landed. They were just a few hundred feet above the water at that point, right over the middle of the river. Tonight, the NTSB says the investigation has just begun. Today was their first full day on the scene, and there are many questions. Among them, authorities will have to answer whether the helicopter might have mistaken another aircraft in the air as the one air traffic controllers were talking about when they first radioed, asking, do you see that jet? Do you have the regional jet in sight? In some of the surveillance, you can actually see another plane in the air. And that's just one question in this investigation. There are also questions about altitude, why the passenger jet and the Black Hawk were operating at the same altitude, and how they were able to get so close to one another. The passenger data recorder expected to shed light whether the American Airlines pilots knew that that Black Hawk was so close. Late today, we spoke with an eyewitness who saw that passenger jet in the air. He was driving home from work. Ari Shulman. Ari, I know you were driving home from work and you saw that regional jet through the window?
I did. I saw
saw it out my left window. I was looking ahead when I was driving, but I looked off to my left knowing that the runway was there and wondering if there might be a plane landing. And I looked and there was, I saw the jet. And when I first looked at it, it was completely normal. It was level flight. Everything was fine.
And then moments later, you looked out the window and you saw something very different?
Yes, that's right. I saw little snatches of it for about 2 or 3 seconds at a time. But the second time that I looked, which was just a few seconds later, it was turned over on its right side. It had banked all the way to the right. I could see the belly of it underneath. It was lit up a very bright yellow, and there was a stream of sparks coming down the plane. It looked to me like from the head to the tail. I didn't see the helicopter the first time I looked or the second time I looked or at any point after. If it was there, it was very, very hard to see. But that's surely what I saw was the immediate moment after that collision.
And tonight, we're beginning to learn about some of the lives lost. Among them, the American Airlines pilot's First Officer Samuel Lilly, 29. His family saying he was newly engaged and just months away from being promoted to captain. Also on that flight, U.S. figure skating confirming 14 athletes, skaters, their coaches and family members also on board. Returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita. U.S. Skating saying in a statement, "We are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy and hold the victims' families closely in our hearts." Tonight, Russian state media also reporting 2 Russian world champion skaters were on the plane. They were married. Many of the skaters were from the Skating Club of Boston. Olympic skater Nancy Kerrigan among the alumni of that program. And today, she was in tears as she spoke with those young skaters.
Still looks the
The
same.
lesson I think learned in skating is you get back up. Keep on trying, and even when it's hard, you get back up. Even when you're crying, hurt, pain, you get back up and move forward. It's not easy, but that's what we all have to do now together.
Among those lost, U.S. figure skating team member Spencer Lane, just 16 years old. This photo from on board the flight just before taking off from Wichita. And he posted this video of himself skating just yesterday with the caption, "I am so happy to have qualified for National Development Camp. It has been my goal almost ever since I became aware that it was a thing. I learned so much and met so many amazing people." One of his coaches today.
This kid was so talented. He'd only started skating a few years ago. He came to me and smiling ear to ear, saying,
"Sad. Lord
I
have
get it
mercy."
now. I understand. He started to discover this connection with the audience and that joy that he was giving to other people through his gift.
Tonight, the crash reminding some in the skating community of a 1961 crash that took the lives of 18 members of the national skating team, 16 family members, coaches, judges, and skating officials flying from New York City to the World Championships in Prague. The crash blamed on mechanical failure. Deadly crashes involving commercial aircraft here in the U.S. are extremely rare. The last one near Buffalo, New York in 2009. And here in Washington tonight, many recalling the crash on the Potomac more than 40 years ago in 1982. An Air Florida flight crashing due to bad weather, killing 78 on board.
Well, loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States. And our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected.
And tonight, the D.C. fire chief telling me they now wait for machinery to help move pieces of that jet before they can continue to recover the victims. Obviously, there are still some victims in that wreckage.
Absolutely.
We know this hasn't been easy for your teams. That's what I feel.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. Well,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. The D.C. fire chief telling me those rescue crews were here in the water and at the wreckage 10 minutes after the crash. And in fact, right over my shoulder here on the Potomac, you can see the control tower there tonight. The airplanes in the sky activity has resumed. And of course, the fast-moving investigation at this hour, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth saying a mistake was made. And what early data reveals tonight about altitude, the Blackhawk flying at 350 feet, authorities on where it should have been. And tonight, also questions about whether that one air traffic controller was actually doing the work of 2 controllers.
See, that's not good.
Neil Benitez, coverage.
Tonight, as investigators search the wreckage of that mid-air disaster in the icy Potomac River, an early focus is the flight path of that Army Blackhawk helicopter. That chopper appeared to be flying at about 350 feet, according to early flight data, when it should have been flying under 200 feet. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Under 200 feet.
The military does dangerous things. It does routine things on the regular basis. Tragically, last night, a mistake was made. There was some sort of an elevation issue that we have immediately begun investigating.
DC airspace among the busiest in the country. And tonight, a source with direct knowledge confirming reports that the air traffic controller on duty was performing the job normally done by 2 controllers. This is usually done when there's less air traffic. But last night, that change from 2 controllers to 1 was made 40 minutes earlier than usual because of lighter traffic. Late today, the NTSB responded.
We have not reviewed any specific reports about the controllers at this time, at least from the leadership team. Our investigators are continuing to pull all that information. Their personnel records are...
Yeah, I'm going to stop right there. Oh, Lordy. So are we now talking about air controller issue and possibly also someone not flying at the right altitude? Because that's still 2 different situations. Okay? When you're flying, I'm assuming you know where you're supposed to be in the aircraft of the helicopter, rather. Just like the aircraft knows where they're supposed to be. The helicopter knows he's supposed to be at a certain altitude. Allegedly, he wasn't at the right altitude. Could that have made a difference in crashing into a plane, or whichever one crashed into the other one? I would say probably so. Then we've got the issue with the comptroller. The controller only being 1 at hand, and it's supposed to be 2. 1 is supposed to direct plane traffic, and 1's supposed to direct helicopter traffic, as I read earlier. So yes, that's an issue too, because now you're talking about a person using 2 eyes for 2 different sets of aircrafts, and it's also dark. Stay woke, everybody. Are we talking about a 2-for-1 type situation here? Don't know. But this ain't good either way. We know an error was made. That's obvious. As I said, these aren't AI-generated planes. These aren't robots flying them. There are actual humans flying the planes. Once again, my condolences to the families of the victims of all aboard. And once again, please, let's pray for the divers who are going in icy water to get debris and remains. We have to pray for them because they're doing a very hard job. But this is bad. We're not talking about altitude for the helicopter, and then we're talking about, allegedly, 1 controller at the wheel. This is bad.
Their files, where they were at, whether they were fatigued.
The union for ATC workers saying tonight it stands with a highly trained, highly skilled workforce. Meanwhile, commercial airplanes are equipped with collision avoidance systems designed to prevent these types of crashes. But that system only works at about 1,000 feet or higher. Remember, the plane involved in last night's crash was flying about 350 feet from the ground. Meanwhile, it was
that's not high at all.
The pilot of the Blackhawk helicopter would have been flying visually. And David, we've just learned that the black boxes from the American Airlines flight have just been recovered.
What's new to you, Chip?
On the way to the NTSB lab. David.
A very important development tonight, Gio Benitez. This evening, when we're also learning about the Blackhawk helicopter, the service members on board and their mission. Martha Raditz is here with me tonight. And Martha, we learned today they had night vision goggles on. You learned that this was routine training and that they were experienced pilots.
They were both very experienced pilots. They have done that run several times themselves in the day, in the night, and they did apparently have those night vision goggles on. That would be unusual if they did not. But that can make it more difficult. Helicopter pilots I've talked to in the last 24 hours say it is much more difficult with those night vision goggles on because you may think you see that plane in front of you, but they may have been looking at the lights of the city or another plane, David.
Or another aircraft, indeed. All right, Martha Raditz.
Well, stop there. We're going to chop up everything they're saying, everybody. We're now in hour 2 hours, 28 minutes in this live stream. Welcome to the Vault XL. Night goggles. It is normal to wear the night goggles. The 2 people flying or whomever was flying, supposed to be 3 on board, were trained in their field, in their craft. But you can distort lights in the city for lights on the plane. That ain't good. That ain't good at all. Because, see, you don't really ever think about that when you're flying. Because you know you're not supposed to think about that when you're a passenger. I'm not supposed to think about anything going wrong while I am up here, but it's common sense. I am depending on two people to guide me to my destination. They are human beings. It has been said you are safer in a plane than being on ground because we crash cars more than we do airplanes. Think about what we're saying now. And it's not to say that we haven't had people flying who were inebriated, drunk, crunk. Somebody smelled alcohol, had to reprimand them right there at the airline. Very scary. Thank God there are two people flying the damn plane. Because we would be in trouble if we would depend on one person flying a damn plane. See, it's not the same as driving a car. It's usually too late for somebody to take the wheel when the driver falls asleep or is acting erratic. Can't jump into their lap and try to steer the car. But that's a known statistic. You are safer in the air than on the ground. But sadly, on this occasion, the airspace was not safe. And we're talking about a low altitude for both. So both appear to be flying near the same altitude. This ain't good. The plane's coming in to land 2,400 feet from the runway, I guess. Then we had another plane flying above. Then we had other planes flying around when the crash happened. Because then they had to reroute the other planes to runway 33. This is jacked up. This is really jacked up. And if it's going to be an issue about the goggles and the nighttime training, I don't really know what answer to give for that either. All I can say is, bet you don't do it again over water, but then that don't make sense because they have to train at some point. We can't expect them to only train during the day. It's just like a pilot. I can't expect the pilot to only train during the day. The pilot has to be able to train all times of day, different weather, because that's going to be his or her job. Same thing with the guys and girls training in the helicopter. They have to be able to guide that damn thing at night. It's not going to be no such thing as, well, we're only flying during the day, because when they have to pick up people, you're going to be picking up people all times of different day and night. This is bad. Ooh, honey, this is bad. Well, there's going to have to be some type of regulations with this airport. They're going to have to decide on minimizing airflow traffic. We know Washington, D.C. is a very popular city. It's a very busy city because it is our national it's our government. So naturally, they have different people coming in, dignitaries, people coming to speak, to the House, the Senate, blah, blah, blah. People, going to the White House, meet with the president, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of business running in and out of Washington, D.C., flying from all over the world and United States. So they're going to have to come up with something else. They're going to have to come up with an alternate damn airport. They're going to have to do something because this ain't working. And maybe that's what they need. Another little airport. Preferably near grass, no water, if you get my drift. Because that's just too damn close to the water, my opinion.
Is with us here tonight, Martha. Thank you. Meantime, tonight, President Trump coming before the cameras of the White House briefing room today, calling for a moment of silence. And then moments later, the president implying that DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion, might have contributed.
Well, Michelle, go find you something to do. Let me help you. Blah, 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 that.
Tonight, with the recovery effort underway and the investigation only just beginning, President Trump, without any evidence, blaming the diversity policies of his predecessors for the deadly crash.
A group within the FAA, another story, determined that the workforce was too white, that they had concerted efforts to get the administration to change that and to change it immediately.
The president accusing the previous administrations of hiring air traffic controllers based on diversity goals, not qualifications. Are you saying this crash was somehow caused and the result of diversity hiring? And what evidence have you seen to support these claims?
It just could have been. We have a high standard. We've had a much higher standard than anybody else. And there are things where you have to go by brain power.
But Trump also acknowledged he wasn't sure if the air traffic controllers made any mistakes. Former President
that's why he should be quiet.
Secretary Pete Buttigieg responding, despicable, saying as families grieve, Trump should be leading, not lying. We put safety first, drove down close calls, grew air traffic control, and had 0 commercial airline crash fatalities out of millions of flights on our watch. And David, tonight President Trump is doubling down on
behave in the chat, everybody.
diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are to blame for this tragedy, saying it's, quote, because I have common sense. But again, he's presented no evidence, and this investigation...
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with that. They said the people are trained. Don't matter who they are. Black, white, blue, doesn't matter.
Thank you. When we come back here, the other
it's irrelevant.
News coming in on the hostages. In fact, 8.
We know that people can make mistakes. It's just a
US. Billions are
a costly mistake. People are dead now.
Texas, right up into the Northeast. We'll take you through it.
What is to become of this? Because that's the whole point. Like I said, somebody's going to be looking for somebody to blame. But who are you going to blame? Because the person flying the helicopter's dead. The training instructor, he's dead. Or she's dead. And then the pilots on the jet, they're dead. So you're 4-0. So the only person left is the air controller. Lord have mercy. What a hot butter mess. What a hot butter mess. This is bad. Yeah. Well, can't sue anybody. You don't know who's at fault. I just know that jet was on its way in. It ain't about to stop. Like I said, it's not a school bus. It's not a city bus where it could try to stop. There ain't no stopping no jet. It's got to get in. You know, it's moving at a fast pace. It's not going to stop. Oh, Lord have mercy. I don't know. This is just another terrible situation. This country has been, this a bad new year, I must admit. I can say for myself personally, my own personal nonsense starting the first of the year and all this nonsense coming from this number 47, airplanes and all these executive orders. Now we have a crash of a helicopter and an airplane. I don't even want to say it can't get no worse because I know that it can. But this has been a bad new year. This has been a really bad new year. This has probably been one of the worst New Year's I've seen in a very long time. It's just fucked up. 21 was probably bad when they robbed the Capitol. That was January 6th, so I take that back. This is horrible. This is horrible. I don't know where it's gonna go though, but can't bring the dead back. That's the point.
As part of the ceasefire agreement with Israel, 3 Israelis and 5 Thai citizens reuniting with their families. Israel releasing 110 Palestinian prisoners, 30 minors among those set free. When we come back here tonight, tracking these severe storms moving in, millions from Texas all the way up to the Northeast are on alert.
Listen, if you've been in a car accident, don't.
No, haven't been in a car accident recently. Good God Almighty. As I said, I don't know where this is going. So far, they're now at 40 bodies retrieved. I'm not going to hold any longer. I'm going to check out of here. But we're at 40 bodies retrieved. 1 black box retrieved from the American airline. I don't. As I said, I don't see anybody being content with the latest information. That I don't. So I'm trying to find the latest information. This is just horrible. So what's sad is this one man is waiting for his wife to be retrieved from the wreckage. And little did he know, she was not going to be coming home. Oh, Lord of mercy. This is so terrible. It says it was not normal for the time of day and level of traffic. So that guy, woman, whomever comes on the controller because it was less traffic. But look what happened. Less traffic. What do you call less traffic? That's another thing. What is considered less traffic? How many airplanes are considered less traffic? Because what's sad is one controller's on because there's allegedly less traffic, but yet we have a crash of 2 aircrafts. And I'm trying to understand how that helicopter was in one piece. Make me understand. Because there was an explosion. You crashed into one another. Okay? How is the damn helicopter in one piece? Hell, where's the helicopter? I don't see the damn helicopter. Well, where is it at? That it's in one piece and the plane broke up into 3 pieces. They crashed in the air, several hundred feet in the air. You know what I'm saying? Make it make sense. I don't understand what they're talking about. January 31st. This was just almost an hour ago. FAA's preliminary report on the incident noted that the staffing at the air traffic control tower was not normal, pointing to the fact that a single air traffic controller was handling both helicopter and plane traffic. So that's not good. So before everybody starts blaming the helicopter, as I just said, we're 2-0. Helicopter not at the right altitude, and you ain't got but one controller at the wheel in the tower, which is not good. Because as I just said, my interpretation of normal may not be somebody else's interpretation of normal. I don't know what's normal for aircraft running in and out of an airport. There's no way I can tell anybody how many planes are supposed to be running in and out of an airport at the same damn time. Now you're talking about dark 30. One aircraft is not at the altitude it's supposed to be. You got a jet running in like a bat out of hell, like it's supposed to be, and poof, voila, both of them crashed. It says, however, the federal body's assessment was refuted by an unnamed source cited by the AP, who was familiar with the matter and said the staffing at the tower was at normal level. Okay, so now please don't tell me we're getting ready to start arguing about who was at the tower. Because somebody has to check in, somebody has to clock in. So are we now getting ready to start having a dispute on who was working? Now, please, we don't need a cover-up of who was at the controller's office and wasn't there. So we're going to need somebody to talk and say, yeah, I'm the guy that was working. I'm the only one that clocked in. My normal shift is this, this, and this. I normally work this amount of hours. This ain't good. The New York Times reported that the handling of airplane traffic and helicopter traffic is usually handled by 2 separate controllers until 9:30 p.m. every day. So did somebody leave early? Somebody didn't show up. This guy's been working all day. As I said, what's the normal shift? 10 hours? What are we talking? How many controllers do they have working at the airport per airline? Ding, ding, ding. However, on Wednesday evening, the air traffic control supervisor merged the 2 jobs before 9:30. The collision occurred shortly before 9 p.m. local time and allowed 1 air traffic controller to leave early. Bingo card. That's what I was looking for. That's what I was looking for. Somebody left early. Now, I had a Queen was about to say that. I bet you somebody left early because they didn't see a lot of planes flying in. Hey, you can go home, Bob. We ain't got a lot of planes flying in right now. You go on home now, you hear? Damn. Say it again, Queen. Supervisor merged the 2 jobs before 9:30. The collision occurred shortly before 9 p.m. and allowed 1 air traffic controller to leave early. The National Security Transport Board, which is investigating the crash, announced it had recovered the crash plane's cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder, which are sometimes referred to as black boxes. The 2 recorders were taken to the NTSB's lab for evaluation. So we now have 2 recorders found, not just 1. I brought you that information before. But now 2 of the boxes have been recovered. What will they say? 5:40 yesterday, 40 bodies have been recovered in the Potomac River, ABC News, CBS News reported, along with partial remains, and investigators believe they have recovered all they can without moving the plane's fuselage. Fuselage, excuse me. CBS reported the search for remains will stop at dusk, pick up tomorrow. Okay, just going over all that's important. This was yesterday at 2:15 p.m. The air traffic controller who was handling helicopters near the airport Wednesday night was also directing commercial planes in takeoff and landing jobs that are usually assigned to 2 separate people, according to an internal preliminary Federal Aviation Administration safety report seen by the Times, which also reported the tower at the airport has been understaffed for years. And I brought you that content earlier. CNN also reported the tower was understaffed and had 1 person doing 2 jobs, citing an unnamed air traffic control source. So that means somebody knows something at this airport. Now people are going to be pissed off, like I said before, because now the cat, sorry about that, everybody, the cat is out of the bag about, now you've got 1 person working and you're supposed to have 2. So everybody's been rolling the dice with their life over there in Washington, D.C. Just go ahead and say it now. We'll go ahead and say it. You've been rolling the dice on your life, fucking around over there in Washington, D.C. with 1 damn controller. I said it. You've been rolling the dice on your life. Well, Britt, it don't matter if they left early. Somebody gave them the right to leave early. They didn't walk out. They didn't quit. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? They didn't sneak out. When I talk about high school, somebody said you could go home. Somebody said you could go home or you asked to go home, whichever. So it's the supervisor who has to stand account for sending the other person home before 9:30. So we got a little more information than we had before. Now, who's the source giving out this information? Your ass gonna probably be fired too. Just keep it real. 1 person doing 2 jobs, citing an unnamed air traffic control source. So we got a tattleteller. We got the person who was left behind, or we got the person that left. Somebody's gave the tea to the news. Army officials confirmed that 2 pilots of the helicopter, 1 man and 1 woman. Uh-oh, we got a woman on deck, everybody. And a male staff sergeant crew member were killed in the collision. Their bodies have been recovered. So the 3 Army people have been recovered, and there was a woman on the flight. Shut your mouth. Hot damn. Damn. Woo, that's some tea right there, baby, because I wasn't expecting that. That's why I always like to say man or woman. 2 pilots of the helicopter. 1 man and 1 woman. Lord, don't let Trump find out a woman was flying that damn helicopter. Oh, Jesus. Lord have mercy. Let it have been a woman flying, and God forbid she was black or Chinese. Asian, excuse me. Hispanic. Y'all done show told it now. So the 3 Army people have been recovered, everybody. 2 pilots and a male staff sergeant, crew member. 2 pilots. 1 was a man, 1 was a woman. Now everybody's going to start wondering which one was flying. It doesn't matter if they were trying to fly. It doesn't matter. But I know there are going to be some people saying, if it's a woman, she shouldn't have been flying. But, that's not right. Oh, Jesus. Trying to just bring you the latest information. If you're curious where the helicopter was coming from, the Army helicopter, it came from Fort Belvoir, Virginia. A fairly experienced crew and was conducting a required annual night evaluation flights. So they were on a training flight, and sadly, it crashed to a jet. Oh my God, this is bad. It's just bad all the way around, man. After the crash, all takeoffs and landings were halted at Reagan National. The officials said operations at the airport will remain halted until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Thursday. So planes are back up and running as I speak at this D.C. airport. Oh, Jesus. A Bombardier CRJ-700 regional jet operated by PSA Airlines, a regional carrier owned by American Airlines, collided with the Blackhawk military helicopter while approaching the runway at Reagan Airport for landing. The incident took place shortly before 9 p.m. local time, according to FAA. The Bombardier jet, which originated in Wichita, Kansas, was carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members, American Airlines said, making the flight fairly full. A CRJ-700 regional jet can usually seat around 60 and 80 passengers. The chopper involved in the crash was a USA Army Blackhawk helicopter carrying 3 people. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser confirmed in a press conference after midnight on Thursday. In a press conference early on Thursday, Donnelly said the first units arrived at the scene at 8:58 p.m. local time, 10 minutes after they first received an alert and found an aircraft in the water and began rescue operations. Donnelly said 300 emergency responders are on the scene and they are working on a highly complex operation due to the extremely rough and windy conditions. There were 60 people aboard the plane, along with, once again, 4 crew members, 3 people in the helicopter. Officials said Thursday there are believed to be no survivors. And once again, 40 people have been pulled from the wreckage and the waters. Oh, Lord. Official governing body for figure skating in the country. Several members of his community were on the plane. These athletes, coaches, family members were returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championship in Wichita, Kansas. Russian state news outlet TASS reported that a former world champion pairs figure skater duo from the country was also on board. So there was a couple, foreign couple, that were on board this flight from Wichita, Kansas. Okay. The area around Reagan National Airport is heavily congested and tightly controlled, with the busy airport sitting in close proximity to sensitive sites like the Pentagon and Washington, D.C. Serious crashes involving large passenger jets are exceedingly rare in the United States. Wednesday's incident is the first fatal crash of a U.S. commercial airliner since the Colgan air crash in upstate New York in 2009, which killed 50 people. It is the deadliest aviation disaster in the U.S. since November 12, 2001, when an American Airlines flight crashed in New York and killed all 260 people on board. The last crash in U.S. soil involving a commercial airliner took place in 2013, when a plane operated by South Korean carrier Asiana Airlines crashed in San Francisco, killing 3 people and injuring 187 passengers. Oh, Lord, or 187, excuse me. That's the latest I got from Forbes, everybody. This is so bad. Hey, Joy, how you doing, sweetheart? Hello, everybody. I'm going to check out of here. I'm almost 3 hours in. That's the latest. 40 people pulled from the wreckage. 2 boxes have been recovered from the jet. A man and a man were on the Army helicopter. 2 pilots, one a man, one is a woman. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of BS coming from the White House about that. But I don't want to hear it, don't care. Because if it said they were trained, then they were trained. What happened? Who's at fault? I don't know. But the point is, ain't no going back. The people are dead. And we have people in the water trying to retrieve them. They will start at dusk today, Friday, to get the wreckage. And make sure not to, try not to have it bust up, break up, as not to have the people fall in the water. So they're going to try to move it, I'm sure, as swiftly and delicately as they can to preserve the bodies inside of the wreckage. This is bad. Godly, man. This is just even having to word it is horrible. Just absolutely horrible. It's just horrible. Prayers to the victims' families. Prayers to Boston. This was their organization, the people, part of the skating organization. Prayers to you all there. Prayers for this great nation, because we need all the prayers we can, especially going into these next 4 years and all this highfalutin rhetoric and racism and nonsense. Because in the end, what happened here has nothing to do with race or a hiring process. I don't know who did what and who said what. But the point is, these people aren't coming back. They are no longer alive. And people need to be respectful. And that's including you, Mr. 47. You've been very vile and disrespectful to these dead people and their relatives and the community, and it is unwarranted. But that's expected because you don't have respect for yourself, so we shouldn't be shocked. You don't have any respect for these dead people. There are people who have to fly every day for business, leisure, and this is a scary situation for people who fly and for those who don't fly, those who may want to fly. They will be petrified to fly now after this incident, rightfully so. Follow the Queen on the Newsbreak app, the Vault XL. Take the polls on my community page. There won't be a poll pertaining to this dilemma. The next live stream, we're going to talk about Sean Puffy Combs. There's new information pertaining to when he was arrested. There was some pink powder found in his hotel suite, baggies of pink powder. And there was also a woman there waiting for him. But naturally, he didn't come back to the road because he was arrested. And now he has 3 new accusers. The man that's incarcerated in Michigan, his civil case has been thrown out by a judge. So we'll talk about that possibly later on today pertaining to Sean Puffy Combs. Prayers for all 67 victims, their families. My sincerest, deepest condolences to you all. And as I said, prayers for all of us going forward. Oh, thank you so much, Chip. Come back anytime. Prayers to everyone in the chat. Once again, Happy New Year. This new year will be out come tomorrow. So I believe tomorrow. I forgot what damn day it is. I think my birthday was what, Wednesday? 29th. 31st Friday. Yeah, Saturday be the 1st. Okay. Gotta keep up now. Once again, the Queen turned 54 on Wednesday. Thank you all for the kind birthday wishes. I appreciate it. Thank you for commenting and watching my live video at the Embassy Suites Wednesday night. I had a great time. And I'm praying for a better new year, better things this year. Like I said, this has been a rough new year with things happening in the government and all this backlash and just crazy rhetoric. It's just sad and it's depressing, you know, but I refuse to let it get to me. I refuse to let anything get to me because, first of all, I'm a child of God and I'm highly favored. So I'm not worrying about the White House. I'm not worrying about anything and anyone else because I have a life to live. And I advise other people to do the same. Life is too short for all this BS and hate. If that's how you want to live your life, that's your choice, but I'm not engaging in it. No form or fashion. That's not me. Like, share, subscribe, drop your comments below this video. Once again, check out my massive library, 3,000 plus videos on various topics. I will still be bringing you breaking news this weekend. And we will reconvene. Check out my movie of the week, TV series airing on Netflix. If you have Netflix, it's called The Worst Ex Ever. Woo! Crazy stories of exes who could not move on and decided to take revenge against their lovers' spouses. Please check it out. 4 episodes on Netflix, The Worst Ex Ever. And I have no words for what I've watched recently. Some terrible, terrible stories. Just goes to show you don't know people. So it don't matter where you meet them, how you hook up with them, where you date them. That's it. Well, there's my alarm going off. Let me go. Thanks for listening, everybody. Vault XL. Oh, Lord.